Where am I? Why was I over? Why did I vanish? What? Okay, that's fine. LMAO, greetings, Earthlings. My name is Yuki Koyuki, and welcome back to Koyuki channel. Hi. What's up? How's everyone doing? Okay, so why are we doing another book club back to back? Because I didn't finish the book yesterday. I only got halfway through the book yesterday, and I didn't budget 2 streams and my tracking just died. Come on, tracking. Be good for me. You know you want to be a good baby. There we go. There we go. Yeah, I didn't budget 2 streams for this book because I didn't think I needed it. But yeah. We're gonna continue reading Wayside School is Falling Down. Just because I wanted to finish it this week, and I'm stubborn. So we're gonna just hop right in. We got exactly halfway through the book. We are at chapter 15. Yandere Koyuki. Why am I yandere? Is it because I'm wearing a school uniform? Is that what makes me yandere? That's funny. Hi ho, Kermit the Frog here. Hi, Kermit. That's what makes me yandere, the fact that I'm just wearing a school uniform. I'm wearing the school uniform because we're reading. We're reading a fun book. We're reading a fun book. I'm looking at, I just got a pop-up on my YouTube studio telling me that there's something wrong with the stream. But no, it's fine. Stream is fine. They were just lying to me. Nice impression of me. Glad you didn't do Miss Piggy, my ex. Isn't it like canon that Kermit and Miss Piggy are like broken up now? I'm pretty sure that's canon. Because I know it was the subject of the ABC Muppet show. Like the Muppets The Office show that they did for a little while there. Yeah. I don't know. I like the Muppets, but I am not up to date on my Muppet lore. So just call me a fake Muppet fan. But yeah. So we got halfway through the first Wayside School book yesterday. And we are on chapter 15. She always break my pelvis. That's why I broke up with her. I'm sorry, just the mental image of Miss Piggy riding Kermit the Frog so hard that she shatters his pelvis is just like sending me. It's sending me, and I'm trying to focus so that we can get through the book. And I'm like, I keep trying to do my little introduction, but it's like, no, you guys drop unhinged shit like, oh, I'm Kermit the Frog, and I get death by snow. Like, God. Why do I do this to myself? But yeah. Also, quick shout out. Hey you watching the VOD. Hi, nice to meet you, Mr. Earthling. If you're watching the VOD and you weren't able to catch it live, do me a favor, will you comment? Will you comment so I can get to know you? I want to get to know the people who watch my videos, so just, like, leave a little alien gang sign down below for me, so I know that so that I know you exist, and that you're not just another nameless, faceless number. I will appreciate it. Okay, that's it. That's all I wanted to say. You assume the VOD viewer's gender? Well, the reason I say nice to meet you, Mr. Earthling, is it's a reference to a song. It's a reference to a Vocaloid song that I really like about aliens, which I am one. So that's why I say Mr. Earthling instead of just Earthling. It's also why, if you look at, like, the subscriber notification doesn't pop up all that often, but the subscriber notification says, nice to meet ya. So whoever just subscribed, nice to meet ya, subscriber. That's also a reference to it. Technically, I know I say greetings, Earthlings, a lot, but officially, my sign-on greeting is, nice to meet ya, Mr. Earthling. lmao, nice to meet you, Mr. Earthling. That's the official sign-on. I just never say it because I got so used to saying greetings, Earthlings, because that was my old sign-on. But lmao is the like official first part of the sign-on. So I always say lmao these days. Yeah. Want to know the sign language for peace? It's the little two fingers up, right? The little two fingers? That's the sign language for peace. Right? Or it's not. You're gonna drop something cursed, aren't you? And try and trick me. I don't believe you. I don't trust you. I don't trust like that. It's the little two fingers that go up in a V. Almost like V for victory. That's peace. Rick and Morty peace sign. Yeah, the Rick and Morty peace sign is the flip-off. It means peace among worlds. Yeah, I've seen that episode. I've seen every episode of Rick and Morty. You can't fool me. You can't get me going. Anyway. Yeah, so this is the second half of our Nostalgia Book Club meeting from yesterday. We are going to be finishing up this book, hopefully. If we don't finish it today, we'll tack on whatever chapters we don't finish on the next Nostalgia Book Club reading, or maybe I'll just finish it on my own time. I'm not sure. Because I have stuff planned this evening, so I can't stream forever and ever always tonight. Usually I like to stream just as long as I want. But we don't always. Why am I the only one here? People are afraid of the book. It's because I don't usually stream on Thursdays. My stream schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So Thursday is kind of a weird day. And also, people tend to trickle in after I've been streaming for about an hour. That's when like I hit my peak viewership, I've noticed. So just gotta wait for other people to show up. But yeah. I don't know if you've been watching the other Nostalgia Book Club VODs, but we've been reading the Wayside School series, which is a really weird, goofy children's novel about this elementary school that was built sideways. The builder said he was very sorry. Instead of having 30 classrooms on one story, there's 30 stories with one classroom on each floor. And it's a sideways school named Wayside. It's really cute. It's vaguely whimsical, it's fantastical, it's goofy, and everything is just a little bit odd and off and eccentric at this school. And it's really interesting because there's like 5 or 6 books. There's like 4 main series books and some spin-off books. And then it also got a after-school special in the 80s. So a live-action after-school special. And that was a backdoor pilot for potentially a children's sitcom that never took off. And then there, in the early 2000s, there was a cartoon that aired in Canada. It was a Canadian cartoon based on Wayside. that aired on Nickelodeon for a very brief window. But it's still, people remember it. And I'm doing a long-form retrospective video on the whole Wayside series. So, that's the idea. That's the idea that we got going on here. That's what we got going on. So this is the second book in the series, Wayside School is Falling Down. And in the first book, we were introduced to all of the quote-unquote main characters. This is kind of an ensemble cast vibe, of characters that they just kind of show up, they kind of drop in, drop out. There's not really one singular main character. And we just kind of see what this whole ensemble is up to. In the first book, we were introduced to all of the children who go to the school at, specifically the class on the 30th story, Mrs. Jewel's class. And we were introduced to the yard teacher, Lewis, and we got to see some of their little adventures that introduced us to each of the kids' unique quirks. And in the second book, we're getting more ensemble stories, little short stories revolving around these kids and their adventures at the school, and they're very silly. We're picking up on chapter 15, and chapter 15 is a chapter that is calling back to the first chapter of the first book, where we are introduced to what the closest thing that we have to a main antagonist, which is Mrs. Gorf. Mrs. Gorf she was the previous teacher of the class on the 30th story, the 30th floor, but she got turned into an apple and then she got eaten, so now she's like a specter that haunts Wayside School, and she's kind of like an urban legend character now, and sometimes she'll show up and do, shenanigans, and it'll be wacky and whimsical and fun and fantastical and goofy. The first time Mrs. Gorf returned, she came back as a ghost on Halloween and tried to terrorize the school, but that didn't work. And now, chapter 15 of Wayside School is Falling Down, the second book, is She's Back, which I haven't read this chapter yet. I haven't read this book since I was a Spore. But I assume that this is a Mrs. Gorf chapter. Mrs. Gorf is going to show up, and we're going to see what's going on with Mrs. Gorf. That's that's kind of the short recap of what we're up to. I'm just going to try and read as many of these chapters as I can. If we get through all 15 to the end of the book, fantastic. If we don't, we'll pick it up another time and we'll finish the book later. So I'm just going to hop right into it. Hop, because Kermit the Frog. I'm just going to hop right into it and start reading chapter 15. And first, actually, I'm going to put on a hat. I don't want my hat to bounce. There we go. See, now I'm a frog. Hello, beautiful. Where have you been all my life? Sensual ribbiting. Yeah. But yeah, let's just hop into chapter 15. She's back. Dee Dee ran across the playground screaming. At first, Lewis thought she was just having fun, but then he realized something was wrong. He hurried after her and grabbed her arm. Dee Dee, are you all right? He asked. She stared at him wide-eyed as she continued to scream. Several other kids gathered around. "What's wrong with Dee Dee?" asked Myron. "I don't know," said Louis. Dee Dee hiccuped 3 times, then gasped, "I saw her!" "Who?" asked Louis. Dee Dee didn't answer. She just stared right through him. But everyone else knew whom Dee Dee had seen. Most of them had seen her too, during the last 2 weeks. "Where was she?" asked Todd. "On the monkey bars," said Dee Dee, still trembling and breathing hard. "I was hanging upside down, and suddenly she was hanging upside down right next to me." "Did she wiggle her ears?" asked Jenny. "Only one," said Dee Dee. "I jumped off and ran away before she could wiggle the other one." "That's good," said Rondi. "Who is she?" asked Louis. "A hippopotamus?" "No," said Myron with a laugh. "Why do you say that?" "Because when a hippopotamus gets mad, it wiggles its ears." "She's worse than a hippopotamus," said Allison. "I saw her last week at the water fountain," said Todd. "I bent down to get a drink, and then there she was, drinking at the faucet next to me." "I saw her on the stairs," said Rondi. "I was going up the stairs, and she went right past me, sliding down on the banister." "Who?" asked Louis. "Mrs. Gorf," said Dee Dee. Just saying the name sent a shiver of fear through her body. "Oh, your old teacher," said Louis with a shrug. "Is she back? I always wondered what happened to her." The children looked at each other. Mrs. Gorf was the teacher they had had before Mrs. Jules took over. They had never told anyone how they got rid of her. They especially couldn't tell Louis. She was the meanest teacher in the history of Wayside School. Of course, there are other teachers at other schools who are meaner. Louis looked towards the monkey bars. "I don't see her," he said. "Well, she was there," Dee Dee insisted. "I saw her." "You just imagined you saw her, Dee Dee," said Louis. "If you hate somebody, or if you love somebody, you often think you see that person when she isn't there. It's very common. It's just like Mrs. Drizzle." "Who's Mrs. Drizzle?" asked Todd. "She was the worst teacher I ever had," said Louis. He shivered just thinking about her. "She was my teacher when I was your age. Sometimes I think I see her too." I sometimes think I see her too. Like, sometimes this book has typos in it, and sometimes the words are just arranged weirdly. "And I still have nightmares about her." "Was she mean?" asked Rondi. "She was horrible," said Louis. "Every morning she used to check our fingernails. If they were dirty, she'd tell the whole class. 'Louis has dirty fingernails this morning,' she'd say in a really nasty voice. And if you talked in class, she would pick up the waste paper basket and put it over your head. You had to leave it on your head until the bell rang." "Did she ever put it over your head?" asked Todd. "Lots of times," said Louis. Everybody laughed. "It wasn't funny," said Louis. "My mother always knew when I got in trouble because I'd have bits of trash stuck in my hair." "Did it get stuck in your mustache, too?" asked Rondi. "Louis didn't have a mustache when he was our age," said Allison. "Did you, Louis?" she asked. Suddenly, Louis screamed. Everyone stared at him. "She's back!" he shouted as he shook with fear. Then he slapped himself in the face. "Excuse me," he said. "Sorry. For a second I thought I saw Mrs. Drizzle." He turned to Dee Dee. "Come on, let's go back to the monkey bars." "No!" declared Dee Dee. "I'm not going back. I'm never getting on the monkey bars ever again." Louis took hold of her hand. "Mrs. Gorf isn't there," he said. "You just imagined her." They headed to the monkey bars. No one else dared to follow. "If she starts to wiggle her ears, run away as fast as you can," warned Dee Dee. She held tightly onto Louis's hand. When they reached the monkey bars, no one was there. "Where were you when you saw her?" Louis asked. "I was hanging upside down over there," said Dee Dee, pointing. "Okay, go hang upside down," said Louis. "No!" exclaimed Dee Dee. "Don't worry. I'll be right here in case anything else happens." It had rained during the night, so the sand under the monkey bars was wet and somewhat hard. Dee Dee walked across the sand and pulled herself up on the bar. She hooked her leg over, then hung from her knees. Well, do you see her? Lewis asked. Dee Dee pulled herself right side up, then hopped down from the monkey bars. She and Lewis walked away hand in hand. She held Lewis' hands not because she was scared, but because she liked him. Mrs. Drazil sounds almost as bad as Mrs. Gorf, said Dee Dee. She was, said Lewis. She once made me put gum on my nose because I was chewing it in class. How can you chew your nose? Asked Dee Dee. Behind them, Dee Dee's footprints could be seen in the wet sand under the monkey bars. There was also another set of footprints, made by a person who had much bigger feet. Dun, dun, dun! The ghost of Mrs. Gorf. So, that's kind of the vibe of Wayside here. Something whimsical or fantastical happens, and we see the characters in the ensemble cast react to it. That's the general gist of it. Moving on to chapter 16, we have Love and a Dead Rat. Damien was in love with one of the girls in his class. Can you guess which one? He thought about her all the time. Myron threw a red ball to Damien. It bounced off his face. Huh? Said Damien. Why didn't you catch the ball? Asked Myron. What ball? The one that hit you in the face. Did a ball hit me in the face? Asked Damien. Yes. Oh, good, said Damien. I was wondering why my nose hurt. He had been thinking about the girl he loved. He was in love with Mrs. Jules. Oh, God. Okay. Yeah, here we go. That was why he was always doing things for her, like passing out papers. He thought she was very pretty and nice. He thought she was smart, too. In fact, he thought she was one of the smartest people in the class. After recess, he hurried back up the stairs. Fog, I am foggy. I am foggy. Fogger. After recess, he hurried back up the stairs. Hello, Damien, said Mrs. Jules. Hello, Mrs. Jules, he said. You're always the first one here, aren't you? Asked Mrs. Jules. Damien blushed and shrugged his shoulders. Do you need any papers passed out or anything? It's so nice of you to ask. I think you're nice, too, said Damien. Mrs. Jules gave him a stack of workbooks to hand out. Then she gave him a Tootsie Roll Pop from the coffee can on her desk for being so helpful. But don't eat it until after lunch, she said. I won't, he assured her. He ate lunch with Myron and DJ. He saved his Tootsie Roll Pop for last. Joy and Mauricia came up behind him. Hi, Damien, said Joy. How's your girlfriend? What? Asked Damien. He turned red. Who are you talking about? I don't have a girlfriend. You're in love with Mrs. Jules, accused Mauricia. You better watch out, said Joy. Mr. Jules might come after you. The two girls laughed. I don't know what you're talking about, said Damien. I'm not in love with Mrs. Jules. He looked to his friend for support. Myron shrugged. DJ smiled. Prove it, said Joy. Prove you're not in love with her. That's stupid, said Damien. How can I prove I'm not in love with Mrs. Jules? Give her this, said Joy. She handed Damien a paper bag. Your lunch? Asked Damien. Look inside, said Mauricia. Inside the paper bag was a dead rat. Damien knew Mrs. Jules hated dead rats more than anything in the world. Put it in her desk, said Joy. If you don't, it means you love her, said Mauricia. I'm not in love with her, said Damien. Prove it, said Joy. Okay, I will, said Damien. The girls left. You don't have to put the dead rat in her desk, said DJ. We don't care, said Myron. You think I'm in love with her too, don't you? Asked Damien. Myron shrugged. DJ smiled. Some friends you are, said Damien. I'll show you. After lunch, he was the first one back in class. He carried Joy's paper sack. Hello, Damien, said Mrs. Jules. Did you have a nice lunch? It was all right, he muttered. Oh, would you mind getting the construction paper from the closet and putting it on my desk? Asked Mrs. Jules. Thank you. Damien went to the closet and got the construction paper. He put it on her desk. Then, when she wasn't looking, he opened her desk drawer and dumped the dead rat into it. He shut the drawer. Thank you, Damien, said Mrs. Jules. You're always so helpful. It's such a pleasure to have you in my class. Damien felt awful. Mrs. Jules read a story to the class. Damien couldn't pay attention. He kept wondering when she'd open her drawer. After the story, they had art. Everyone was supposed to make snowflakes. Damien folded his piece of construction paper in half. Mrs. Jules screamed. What's wrong, Mrs. Jules? Asked Joy. Somebody put a dead rat in my desk, said Mrs. Jules. I did, declared Damien. Damien? Mrs. Jules said with great surprise. Why? Because I hate you, said Damien. You're always making me do things for you. Oh, I see, said Mrs. Jules. Should I write my name on the board under discipline? He asked. No, that won't be necessary, said Mrs. Jules. That made him feel even worse. Why did I have to prove myself to Joy, he wondered. I don't like Joy. I like Mrs. Jules. He felt rotten. When the bell rang, Damien waited for all the other kids to leave. Then he walked to Mrs. Jules' desk. She was grading papers. Yes, Damien? Do you want me to erase the board for you? He asked. That's all right, said Mrs. Jules. I'll do it myself. Damien sadly walked out of the room and down the stairs. When he reached the bottom, he turned and ran all the way back up to Mrs. Jules' room. She was just putting on her coat. I love you, Mrs. Jules, Damien declared. I'm sorry I put the dead rat in your desk. I did it because I didn't want everyone to know I loved you. I'm sorry. I love you too, Damien, said Mrs. Jules. You do? But what about Mr. Jules? Just because I love Mr. Jules, it doesn't mean I can't also love you. Love is different from most things. She picked up a piece of chalk. If I gave my piece of chalk to someone, then I wouldn't have it anymore. But when I give my love to someone, I end up with more love than I started with. The more love you give away, the more you have left. Damien smiled. I love you, Mrs. Jules, he said. He felt his heart fill up with more love. I love you, Damien, said Mrs. Jules. This is getting disgusting, said the dead rat. It climbed out of Mrs. Jules' desk and walked out of the room. Once again, we have dead rats doing things they shouldn't be supposed to do. But that's fine. It's Wayside School, where dead rats are sentient and live in the basement. Oh, I just thought of something. Does that mean the 3, FBI agents are dead rats? Because there's, these 3 recurring characters that are these... how do I put this? They're like FBI agents. They're like Men in Black. They just show up randomly, and they, are ominous. And the last time we encountered them was in the basement where dead rats live. So, does that mean they're dead rats? I don't know. That's the vibe. Chapter 17. What? It was purple. So, Jenny read the story backward. When she finished, she threw up. Okay, said Jenny. So read the story backward, suggested Mrs. Jules. That way the beginning will be a surprise. But I already know how the story ends, Jenny complained. I only like stories with surprise endings. Good point, said Mrs. Jules. Here, you can read the story yourself. It's very funny. She gave the book to Jenny. All I heard was the last sentence, said Jenny. It isn't funny unless you know what happened first. Why aren't you laughing, Jenny? Asked Mrs. Jules. Didn't you think it was a funny story? That made Dana laugh harder. There goes the giggle box, said Myron. Everybody laughed, except for Jenny. Dana laughed hysterically. Mrs. Jules looked back at the story she had been reading before Jenny's interruption. There was only one sentence left for her to read. She read it to the class. Jenny made a face. She could still taste the awful stuff. And next time you'll drink your prune juice more quickly, said Mrs. Jules. Jenny sat down. Mrs. Jules waited for Jenny to sit down. Jenny wrote her name on the blackboard under the word discipline. Well, that's no excuse, said Mrs. Jules. Now go write your name on the blackboard under the word discipline. I couldn't leave the table until I finished it, explained Jenny. And then I missed the bus. What does prune juice have to do with anything? Asked Mrs. Jules. Because I hate prune juice, Jenny griped. Why are you late? Asked Mrs. Jules. I can't hear you, said Jenny. I better take off my helmet. She took off her helmet. Take off your helmet, said Mrs. Jules. What? Asked Jenny. Why are you late? Asked Mrs. Jules. Jenny caught her breath. What? She asked. She couldn't hear too well because she was still wearing the motorcycle helmets. Mrs. Jules looked up from the story she had been reading to the class. You're late, she said. She hopped off the bike in front of Wayside School and charged up the stairs. Her stomach was still going up and down as she opened the door to Mrs. Jules' room. She put on her helmet, then her father drove her to school on the back of his motorcycle. It was a very bumpy ride. Put on your helmets, said her father. I'll drive you to school on the back of my motorcycle. I missed the bus, Jenny grumbled. What are you doing home? Asked her mother. She finally got it all down, then hurried as fast as she could to the bus stop. When she got there, the bus was just pulling away. She sighed, then turned and ran all the way back home. Her mother wouldn't let her leave the breakfast table until she finished her prune juice. It took her forever. She hated prune juice more than anything in the world. One day, Jenny was late for school. It's a backwards story. It's a backwards story. It's a backwards story. That's funny. 'Cause it's all the events happening in reverse order. That's why it's called What? And also read the story backwards. Yeah. Yeah. That's cute. That's cute. I like that. That's another one of the things. Like, that's a very mundane situation. But by putting it on a weird spin, we get that Wayside flavor, that Wayside stank on it. Which is really fun. I like it a lot. Alright, we are on to Chapter 18, The Substitute. Benjamin couldn't take it any longer. Today was the day he would finally tell Mrs. Jules his real name. So what if nobody likes me, he thought. So what if I stop getting high marks? Hi, Mark, said Jason. Hi, Mark, said Stephen. Hi, he glumly replied, then started up the stairs. Hi, Mark, said BB as he took his seat next to her. Guess what? We have a substitute. Yahoo! Shouted Mauricia. Everyone in Mrs. Jules' class loved it when they had substitute teachers. They loved playing mean and horrible tricks on them. Benjamin frowned. He finally had the courage to tell Mrs. Jules his real name. Rats, he said. That's a good idea, said Terence. We'll put dead rats in her desk. Let's trick her into going outside, said Joy, then lock her out of the room. But what if she tells Mr. Kidswatter? Asked Eric Fry. So what? Said Joy. She'll have to go all the way down to the office, then all the way back up. By then we'll unlock the door. Mr. Kidswatter will think she's bonkers. Benjamin looked at the substitute teacher sitting at Mrs. Jules' desk. She looked like a nice lady. She wore tiny spectacles and had long gray hair tied in a ponytail. He felt sorry for her, and he felt sorry for himself. I was going to tell Mrs. Jules my name, he thought. I really was. The substitute stood up and walked to the center of the room.
Good morning, she said. My name is Mrs. Franklin. Nobody said good morning back to her. Calvin handed Benjamin a note. At 10 o'clock, drop your book on the floor. Pass it on. Benjamin read it, then passed it on to Todd. Okay, who can tell me what page we're on? Asked Mrs. Franklin. Page 17, called Myron. 112, said Mauricia. 98, said Eric Ovens. 3,000, said Joe. Mrs. Franklin smiled. I guess we'll just have to study all those pages, she said. Benjamin raised his hand. Yes, the handsome young man in the red shirt, said the substitute. He told her the correct page. We're on page 102, he said. Thank you, said the substitute. And what is your name, please? Benjamin thought a moment. He looked around the room, then boldly told the truth. My name is Benjamin, he stated proudly. Several kids snickered. Thank you, Benjamin, said the substitute. There were more snickers. You're welcome, said Benjamin. He felt good, even if the other kids were laughing at him. Mrs. Franklin asked a question from page 102. Jason answered it correctly. Very good, said the substitute. And what is your name, please? Jason looked around. Benjamin, he asserted. Half the class giggled. Thank you, Benjamin, said Mrs. Franklin. The other half giggled. Dana answered the next question. And what's your name? Mrs. Franklin asked Dana. Benjamin, Dana blurted, then fell giggling onto the floor. Thank you, Benjamin, said the substitute. Everyone was hysterical. My, it certainly is a pleasure to teach such happy students, said the substitute. Who knows the answer to question 4? They all raised their hands. They all wanted to tell the substitute their names were Benjamin. They were having so much fun, they forgot to drop their books at 10 o'clock. At recess, everyone congratulated Benjamin on his great trick. You're a genius, Mark, said Todd. Benjamin is such a funny name, said Jason. How'd you ever think of it? But my name really is Benjamin, said Benjamin. So is mine, said Stephen. Mine too, said Leslie. They all laughed. Do you think she really believes we're all named Benjamin? Asked Eric Ovens. Probably, said Joy. She is so stupid. If she thought we were lying, she would have gotten mad, said Eric Bacon. The bell rang and they all hurried back to class. After recess was social studies. Who would like to read? Asked Mrs. Franklin. Every hand went up. Okay, Benjamin, said Mrs. Franklin as she pointed at Dana. Everyone laughed. Dana giggled a few seconds, then got control of herself and read from the book. Thank you, Benjamin, said the substitute when Dana finished reading. Okay, Benjamin, you may read next, she said, pointing at Terrence. Everyone laughed. It was the first time all year Terrence had volunteered to read. All day, everyone paid very close attention. They all wanted the teacher to call on them, because as funny as it was when Mrs. Franklin called somebody else Benjamin, it was even funnier when she called you Benjamin. So everyone worked hard and listened closely. As a result, they learned more from the substitute in a day than they usually learned from Mrs. Jules in a month. When the bell finally rang, everyone crowded around her desk. Are you coming back tomorrow, Mrs. Franklin? Asked Eric Bacon. Please, Mrs. Franklin, say you will, pleaded Kathy. You're the best substitute teacher we've ever had, said Jason. The substitute smiled. School is over, she said. You don't have to call me Mrs. Franklin anymore. That sounds so formal. Since we're friends now, you may call me by my first name. What is your first name? Asked Mauricia. The substitute gathered up her things and put them in a straw bag. Benjamin, she said, then walked out of the room. Everyone stared silently after her. Do you think that's really her name? Asked Joy. Benjamin Franklin. Bottom. That's funny. That's really good. Once again, just kind of a goofy situation that just ends up being goofy. This one's a little less like fantastical and whimsical than the chapters usually are. Like, I was expecting Mrs. Franklin to turn into like a turtle or something, you know? But yeah, that's the vibe. That's the vibe. Very cute. And it continues the running gag that we've had throughout this book of Benjamin not being called Mark and no one knowing his real name because he's too anxiety-ridden to correct anyone, which is very funny. Chapter 19. First. Chapter 19. Second. Interesting. I think this is the okay, I remember, so I read this book when I was a spore, when I was little. And I remember there was a chapter where we went to the 19th story and we find out that, like, the 19th story is, like, the the 19th story of Wayside School, the 19th floor. And the 19th floor is, like, the back rooms kind of vibe. So I think we're finally at this part of the book where we go to the fucking back rooms. And that's really fun. That's exciting. Hold on, let me sippy from my Baja Blast. Did you hear that? Did you hear me burp because I drank soda? Gross! Yeah. Alright, chapter 19 first. A bad case of the sillies. Allison started up the stairs 5 minutes before the bell rang for school to start. The stairs were completely empty. Allison liked it that way. When the bell rang, the stairs would be crammed with 1,000 screaming kids scurrying to their rooms, but now it was nice and peaceful. She walked up past the 18th story and toward the 20th. There was no 19th story in Wayside School. Miss Zarves taught the class on the 19th story. There was no Miss Zarves. Allison didn't understand it. If there was no 19th story, then wasn't her class really on the 29th? Suddenly, she heard footsteps charging up behind her. She turned to see Ron and Dee Dee racing. She leaned against the wall to get out of their way, but Dee Dee stamped on her foot. Then Ron's elbow jammed her in the stomach. "Ugh," she grunted as she fell and rolled down 3 steps. Dee Dee and Ron didn't even stop to say they were sorry. Allison slowly stood up. Fortunately, she wasn't hurt, but her windbreaker was torn. She thought Ron and Dee Dee were silly. They race up the stairs, and then when they get to Mrs. Jewell's room, they're too pooped to learn anything. Allison thought all the kids in Mrs. Jewell's class were silly, even Rondi, and Rondi was her best friend. Then there was Jason, who was always pestering her. That was because Jason hated her, or else he loved her. Allison wasn't sure which. When she got to class, Dee Dee and Ron were sitting with their heads flat on their desks and their tongues hanging out. "You could have said you were sorry," Allison said as she walked past them. She sat up straight in her chair, folded her hands on her desk, and waited as everyone else wandered in. Jason entered the room carrying a glass bowl with a goldfish swimming inside. Do not put goldfish in bowls. That's bad animal husbandry. Goldfish should be kept in, like, a minimum, 20-gallon tank with a very robust filtration system, because goldfish are some of the dirtiest fish. Like, they will dirty their water with nitrates and nitrites and ammonia so fast they will kill themselves. Don't put goldfish in bowls. This has been a Yuki PSA. Yuki cares about animal husbandry. Hey, Foxelforth. I missed something. Sorry I'm late. No, you're all good. You're all good. We're just catching up on Wayside School. I've just been reading from Wayside. So, if you want to know the story that we're on, there's always the VOD. Basically, Allison is doing stuff. That's kind of what we're up to right now. Jason entered the room carrying a glass bowl with a goldfish swimming inside. "Look what I brought," he said. What's the name of your goldfish? Asked Mrs. Jules. Shark, said Jason. Everyone laughed. Allison rolled her eyes. It makes him feel important, Jason explained. Where should I put him? How about on top of the coat closet? Suggested Mrs. Jules. Jason had to stand on a chair on his tiptoes. He held the bowl at the very bottom as he tried to nudge it over the edge of the closet. Suddenly, the chair toppled over. Ah! Gulp! Jason yelled as he fell on the floor. He was holding the bowl upside down above his wet face. Mrs. Jules hurried to the back of the room. Quick, someone fill the bowl with water, she said. Where's Shark? Jason made a face. I swallowed him. The class went crazy. What a show-off, thought Allison. Mrs. Jules rang her cowbell, needs more cowbell, and told everyone to settle down. You have a bad case of the sillies this morning, she said. She took roll. Who's absent, she asked. Allison, said Rondi. Very funny, Rondi, said Allison. Anyone besides Allison? Asked Mrs. Jules. I'm here, Mrs. Jules, said Allison. She sat behind Eric Fry, so she thought Mrs. Jules couldn't see her. Eric Fry was the biggest kid in the class. Just Allison, said Mrs. Jules. She marked it on her green roll card. Damien, will you please take the roll card to the office? Allison stood up. I'm not absent, she said. Damien took the roll card and walked out the door. Mrs. Jules, did you just mark me absent? Asked Allison. Mrs. Jules didn't answer her. Allison marched to her desk. Mrs. Jules, did you mark me absent? She asked again. Mrs. Jules looked up. Terrence, what are you whispering about? Nothing, mumbled Terrence. If you can say it to Jenny, you can say it to me, said Mrs. Jules. Get off my case, buzzard face, said Terrence. Terrence, exclaimed Mrs. Jules, go write your name on the blackboard under the word discipline. But that's what I said to Jenny, Terrence protested. Mrs. Jules, what about me? Allison demanded. Mrs. Jules ignored her. Allison screamed as loud as she could. Mrs. Jules didn't hear her. Allison faced the class. Can't anybody see me? She asked. Nobody answered her. Rondi, shouted Allison. Dana, Jason? This isn't funny, said Allison. I know you're all just pretending. She stood right in front of Jason, leaned over his desk, and stared him straight in the eye. I know you can see me, she said. You're trying not to laugh. He stared right through her. She stuck out her tongue at him. He leaned forward, causing Allison's tongue to lick his nose. Yuck! She exclaimed, then wiped her tongue on her sleeve. Mrs. Jules began the morning lesson. Have you gone crazy? Shouted Allison. She ran out of the room and down to the class on the 29th story. Come quick, she said. There's something wrong with Mrs. Jules' class. No one heard her. She slammed the door, then continued down the stairs to the class on the 28th floor. No one saw her there either. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Is the whole school playing a joke on me? She wondered. It's not funny, she shouted as loud as she could. She continued down the stairs, screaming anything that came to her head, hoping that someone, somewhere, would notice her. Fish for sale! Fresh fish, fat fish, get your fresh fat fish! A tall, skinny lady with very short hair stepped out of one of the classrooms. Shh, she whispered. This is a school, not a fish market. You can hear me? Asked Allison. She was so happy she wanted to hug her. Yes, I can hear you, the woman said sternly. My whole class can hear you. You're making it impossible for us to get any work done. I'm sorry, said Allison, but something's wrong in Mrs. Jules' class. You'd better come in here, said the teacher. Allison followed the teacher into her classroom. What's your name? The teacher asked her. Allison. Boys and girls, this is Allison, the teacher announced to her students. She'll be joining our class. What? Said Allison. But my name is Mrs. Zarves, said the teacher. Welcome to the 19th story. Dun, dun, dun! We're in the back rooms, baby! We're in the back rooms, baby! Okay. I just noticed something interesting. Just kind of skimming the first page of the next chapter. There's a character named Ray, and earlier in this book, BB invented, like, a fake little brother named Ray. So I'm wondering, maybe all of the people who populate the 19th story are all made up, and this is like some kind of like thin veil imagination land? That's the lore here? That's my headcanon so far, just based on that one thing. Because the name Ray is appearing in the same book twice is a little too coincidental. Let me just read this chapter to you and you'll see what I mean. Maybe my questions will be answered as I read. Chapter 19, second. A wonderful teacher. Allison was still on the 19th story. The desks were arranged in clusters of 4. Allison sat at a cluster with a girl named Virginia, a boy named Nick, and a boy named Ray. But Virginia looked old enough to be her mother, and Nick looked like he should be in high school. Ray was a couple of years younger than Allison. Miss Zarves is a wonderful teacher, said Virginia in a sing-song voice. She's the nicest teacher I ever had. She's the only teacher you ever had, said Nick. So, she's still nice, said Virginia. I've always gotten all A's. Aren't you a little old to be going to school? Allison asked her. You're never too old to learn, said Virginia. No one ever leaves Miss Zarves' class, said Nick. How long have you been here, Virginia? Virginia thought a moment. 32 wonderful years. I've been here 9 years, said Nick. But she always gives us good grades, said Virginia. That's true, Nick agreed. I've gotten all A's since I've been here, too. Me too, said Ray. And sometimes I answer all the problems wrong on purpose. Where were you before you came here? Allison asked him. I went to, Ray shook his head. That's funny. I don't remember. I don't remember where I came from either, said Virginia. Well, I do, said Allison. I was in... But suddenly she couldn't remember either. Then it came to her. Mrs. Jewell's class. And Rondi was in the class, and Jason, and Dana, and Todd. She named every member of the class, including all 3 Erics. She didn't want to forget where she came from. If I forget where I came from, I may never get back, she thought. Did you say there was a girl named BB Gunn? Asked Ray. Yes, said Allison. BB's a very good artist. My last name is Gunn, too, said Ray. I wonder if we're related. Oh, lampshade! Okay, so just maybe we are in Imagination Land. I'm telling you, Wayside School was built on a fairy circle or something. There's some like trickery happening, and it's very fun. Ray, no talking, please, said Miss Zarves. Now everyone please take out a pencil and some paper. I want you to write all the numbers from 0 to 1,000,000 in alphabetical order. From 0 to 1,000,000? Asked Allison. She couldn't believe it. Don't worry, said Virginia. If you run out of paper, Miss Zarves has more in the closet. Allison stared at her in horror. But it will take over 100 years, she said. So? Asked Virginia. What's your hurry? Allison started to work. It was bad enough having to write down all the numbers from 0 to 1,000,000, but she couldn't imagine how she'd ever put them in alphabetical order. 1 came before 2, 3 came after 1, but before 2, 4 came before 1, 5 came before 4, 6 came after 1, but before 3. Don't worry, said Virginia. Even if you miss a few, Miss Zarves will give you an A when you finish. 6 came after 1, and 7 came after 1 and before 6. 8 came first. Allison couldn't think of any number that would come before 8, so she wrote it down. She also knew 0 would come last if she ever got that far. By then, she'd be older than Virginia. I'll talk to Lewis at recess, she thought. He'll save me. When's recess? She asked. There is no recess, said Ray. We're not allowed out of the classroom. What about if you have to go to the bathroom? What's a bathroom? Asked Virginia. We don't eat either, said Nick. We just work all the time. But we never have homework, Virginia said cheerfully. That's because we never go home, said Nick. We get a 2-minute break every 11 hours. But don't worry, said Virginia. Miss Zarves always gives us very good grades. Miss Zarves walked around the room checking everybody's work. Excellent, Ray, she said. Very good, Virginia. You're doing wonderfully, Allison. You get an A for the day. Big deal, thought Allison. She had to figure out some way out of here. It was clear that Virginia, Nick, and Ray were all too far gone to help her. Are there any other new kids in the class? She asked. Ben's new, said Nick. He pointed Ben out to her. Ben appeared to be about Allison's age. She was glad about that. When the 2-minute break came, she went over and talked to him. Are you Ben? She asked. No, he said. Oh, said Allison. I was looking for Ben. That's me, said the boy. But you just said... My name's Mark Miller, said the boy. But for some reason everyone calls me Benjamin Nushmut. There's a Mark Miller in my class, exclaimed Allison. I know, that's me, said Mark. I'm Mark Miller. No, I mean my other class, said Allison. What other class? Allison thought a minute. I don't remember, she said. After putting numbers in alphabetical order for 11 hours, her brain had turned into spaghetti. Time's up, said Miss Zarves. Everyone back to work. The only book I remember from the series is the Sideways Arithmetic book. I didn't understand it as a kid, but one of my goals as an adult is to understand the puzzles. Oh, don't worry, we're going to be doing the brain teaser puzzles together as a stream. I have that scheduled for a stream. Also, hi Space Podity, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome. Okay, we are on chapter 19, the third. Forever is never. We're still in the back rooms. Allison was... Oh, heck yeah, I'm doing good. Passing times I'll have to hang out with someone. Nice, nice. I'm gonna try and finish this book tonight, but I also have plans this evening, so I might not finish the book tonight. We might tack on like a couple chapters on the end of on the end or of the beginning of the next stream, the next Nostalgia Book Club. But yeah, we're clipping along. We're clipping along. Yeah, I hope you're looking forward to doing the brain teaser stream. That'll be a lot of fun. I really like doing puzzle games like Professor Layton, so I'm pretty sure I'll be able to solve some of the brain teasers in the Sideways Arithmetic book. So that'll be pretty fun. Alright, chapter 19, the third. Forever is never. Allison was still stuck on the 19th story. 14 2-minute breaks had passed. Okay, if 14 2-minute breaks had passed, and they have a 2-minute break every 11 hours. That is, what's 14 times 11? Hold on, I can't do math on my head. I'm Googling this. 14 times 11 is 154 divided by 24 equals 6.4 days. Allison has been trapped in the back rooms for almost a week. That's how long Allison has spent in the back rooms. Allison was still stuck on the 19th story. 14 2-minute breaks had passed. It's dictionary time, said Miss Zarves. Everybody got out a dictionary. Allison found a dictionary in her desk, too. What are we supposed to do with it? She asked. Memorize it, said Nick. But that's impossible, said Allison. No, it's easy, Virginia assured her. You memorize one word at a time until you get a whole page. Then you go on to the next page. How many words have you memorized? Asked Allison. I'm almost finished with the B's, Virginia said proudly, and I've only been doing it for 32 years. Allison opened her dictionary. Mrs. Jewell's class, she suddenly remembered. She sighed with relief. For the last 6 days, she'd been trying to remember where she came from. In her mind, she went through everybody in her former class. She didn't want to forget again. As she thought about each person, tears filled her eyes. She missed them very much. Even Jason. They were all so wonderful in their own special ways. When the 2-minute break came, she talked to Mark again. He was the only person in the class who still seemed to have a brain. How did we get here? She asked. Maybe we're dead, said Mark. Maybe we died and went to... This isn't heaven, said Allison. That wasn't what I was going to say. What the fuck? Maybe we died and went to hell? Maybe we died and went to hell? What the fuck? Why is hell in this children's book? Why is hell the back rooms? Allison felt a chill run up her spine. She looked at Miss Zarves. Miss Zarves smiled back at her. But she seems so nice, said Allison. Could someone as nice as her really be the devil? I don't know, said Mark. She always gives good grades. Well, what would happen if we didn't do our work? Asked Allison. We have to do our work, said Mark. Why? Asked Allison. What's Miss Zarves gonna do to us? Keep us after school? I don't know, said Mark. Teachers can always find new ways to punish you. They're experts at it. Your 2 minutes are up, boys and girls, announced Miss Zarves. Everyone back to work. Allison returned to her seat. She tried to figure it all out, but she had so much busy work to do, she didn't have time to think. That's her plan, Allison suddenly realized. She shivered as it all came together for her. Miss Zarves assigns us lots of busy work so we don't have time to think. She makes us memorize stupid things so that we don't think about the important things. And then she gives us good grades to keep us happy. Miss Zarves walked around the room. Very good, Virginia, she said. You're doing so well. Excellent, Ray. Good job, Nick. She stopped when she got to Allison. Allison, why aren't you working? Allison looked at her. She knew Mark was right. Teachers are experts at finding ways to punish you. And if Miss Zarves was the devil, who knew what she might have up her sleeve? Still, Allison had to take a chance. If she wanted to get back to Mrs. Jewell's class, she had to act as if she were in Mrs. Jewell's class. She took off her shoes and socks, sat on the floor, and sucked her toes. Allison, what are you doing? Asked Miss Zarves. Allison took her toe out of her mouth. Get off my case, buzzard face, she said. Miss Zarves was furious. Return to your desk, young lady, she ordered. Allison returned to her desk, but instead of sitting at it, she climbed on top of it and sang a song. I got one sock, looking for the other. One sock, looking for its brother. When I find the sock, I tell you what I'll do. I'll put it on my foot and I'll stick it in my shoe. Mark Miller smiled at her and silently clapped his hands. Everyone else looked at her like she was crazy. Your socks are on the floor next to your shoes, Miss Zarv said coldly. I'll give you 10 seconds to put them on your feet. 10, 9, 8, 7. Allison climbed down from her desk. She picked up her socks and put them on her ears. How's this? She asked. 6, 5, 4. Albert Einstein didn't wear socks, said Allison. Why should I? 3, 2. Allison closed her eyes. 1. She felt something slam down on her foot. Something else jammed into her stomach. "Ooh," she grunted as she fell and rolled down 3 steps. Are you all right? Asked Dee Dee. Huh? Said Allison. She was on the stairs, somewhere between the 18th and 20th stories. Sorry, said Ron. I didn't see you. Dee Dee and I were racing up the stairs, and then you suddenly appeared. You knocked off her shoes and socks, exclaimed Dee Dee. Oh, I ripped your windbreaker, too, said Ron. I'm sorry. That's okay, said Allison. She picked up her shoes and socks. Race you up the stairs. All 3 ran up to Mrs. Jewell's room. When they got there, they were so pooped, they sat down with their heads flat on their desks and their tongues hanging out. Hi, Allison, said Rondi. Allison raised her head. Hi, Rondi, she said happily. What did I miss while I was absent? When were you absent? Asked Rondi. Hey, how come you're not wearing your shoes and socks? Allison hung her socks from her ears. What do you think? She asked. It's a new look. Rondi laughed. Allison, said Mrs. Jewels, you seem to have a bad case of the sillies this morning. Allison giggled. Jason entered the room carrying a glass bowl with a goldfish swimming around inside it. Look what I brought, he said. What's the name of your goldfish? Asked Mrs. Jewels. Shark, said Jason. Everyone laughed. It makes him feel important, Jason explained. Where should I put him? How about on top of the coat closet, suggested Mrs. Jewels. Jason had to stand on a chair on his tiptoes. He held the bowl at the very bottom as he tried to nudge it over the edge of the closet. Allison turned around to watch. She didn't want to miss this. She escaped the back rooms! Yay! She escaped the back rooms! Yay! She did it! Chapter 20, 21, and 22. I was worried there for a minute that we were going to have extra chapters, but I'm glad we're getting all of them in one. All right, chapter 20, 21, and 22. Eric, and Eric. Mr. Kidswatter's voice crackled over the loudspeaker. Mrs. Jewels, send Eric to my office at once. He sounded mad. Mrs. Jewels was confused. When did we get a loudspeaker? She asked. Louis put it in yesterday, said Jenny. Mrs. Jewels was still confused. There were 3 Erics in her class. She didn't know which one Mr. Kidswatter meant. Eric Fry was fat, but not short. Eric Bacon was short, but not fat. Eric Ovens was short and fat. Mrs. Jewels chose the biggest Eric. Eric Fry, Mr. Kidswatter wants to see you. Eric Fry trembled as he slowly stood up. The other 2 Erics smiled. The principal's office was on the 1st floor. It's not fair, Eric thought as he headed down to his doom. Anytime any Eric does something wrong, I'm the one who gets in trouble. He stood in front of the principal's door. His heart beat very fast. He took a couple of breaths, then knocked lightly. Enter! Boomed Mr. Kidswatter. Eric turned the doorknob. He took 1 step inside, then stood with his back against the wall, as far away from Mr. Kidswatter as he could. Mr. Kidswatter sat behind an enormous desk. He wore mirrored sunglasses, so Eric couldn't tell where he was looking. Sit down, Eric, he said. Eric moved to the small metal chair in front of the desk. A bare light bulb hung above his head.
What kind of interrogation principal's office is this? It's so funny.
Mr. Kidswatter cracked his knuckles. "We can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way," he said. "It's your choice." "I don't know what you're talking about," said Eric. "I didn't do anything." "So it's the hard way, is it?" asked Mr. Kidswatter. "Very well, you'll talk. One way or another, you'll tell me everything I want to know." "But," Mr. Kidswatter pounded his fist on his desk, "when was the last time you sharpened your pencil?" Eric tried to remember, but he was too nervous to think. Wait, let me think," he stammered. "We had a spelling test on Friday, but I borrowed—" "Where were you yesterday afternoon at 12:15? Asked Mr. Kidswatter. "Yesterday?" asked Eric. "I was here at Wayside School. I remember I ate lunch and then I played kickball." Mr. Kidswatter smiled. "Do you kick with your left foot?" he asked. "No, I'm right-footed," said Eric Fry. "Humph!" grumbled Mr. Kidswatter. "Have you ever gotten your hair cut at Charlie's barber shop?" "Yes," said Eric, 2 weeks ago. "Aha!" said Mr. Kidswatter. "So you admit it. Do you know what a mugworm griblick is?" Eric Fry turned pale. "No, please," he begged. "I didn't do it. I'm innocent. You've got the wrong Eric. There are 2 other Erics in my class." Mr. Kidswatter scowled. "So that's the way you're gonna play, is it? Well, that's fine with me. I've got all the time in the world." He flicked on the microphone. "Mrs. Jules, send me another Eric." 29 floors above them, Mrs. Jules looked at the 2 remaining Erics. "Okay, Eric Ovens," she said. Eric Ovens shivered. His eyes filled with tears. "Why me?" he asked himself over and over again as he walked down the stairs. "It's my parents' fault. Why'd they have to name me Eric? Why couldn't they named me Osgood?" He tapped on the door to the principal's office. "Come in!" bellowed Mr. Kidswatter. Eric Ovens gulped, then walked inside. He sat in the little chair in front of Mr. Kidswatter's enormous desk. "I want to draw and whatnot." Is your voice acting? "Aw. Hey, Monkey Man, how you doing? Thanks for popping in and hanging out with us. Good seeing you, good seeing you." Eric Fry was nowhere to be seen. What happened to Eric Fry?" he asked. "I'll ask the questions," barked Mr. Kidswatter. "But don't worry, Eric," he said gently. "You have nothing to fear, so long as you tell the truth." He cracked his knuckles. Eric Ovens was very scared. Mrs. Jules always said there was more than one answer to every question. He hoped he gave Mr. Kidswatter the right ones. "Did you have a spelling test last Friday?" Mr. Kidswatter asked. "Yes," said Eric Ovens. "How did you know that?" "I have my ways," Mr. Kidswatter said slyly behind his mirrored glasses. "When was the last time you sharpened your pencil?" "This morning," said Eric Ovens. "Mauricia accidentally stepped on it and—" "Did you play kickball yesterday at 12:15? "No, I played tetherball." "Right or left-handed?" "Right." Mr. Kidswatter tossed a stapler at him. Eric caught it with his right hand. Mr. Kidswatter scowled. "Okay, Eric. Tell me this. Have you ever gotten your hair cut at Charlie's barber shop?" "No, but I will. I'll go right now if you want." "You're not going anywhere!" shouted Mr. Kidswatter. "Have you ever heard of a mugworm griblick?" Eric Ovens screamed. Upstairs, Mrs. Jules heard Mr. Kidswatter's voice resound over the loudspeaker. Mrs. Jules, send me the last Eric! On my way, said Eric Bacon. He hopped out of his chair and bounced down the stairs. He didn't bother knocking on Mr. Kidswatter's door. He just walked right in. What can I do for you? He asked. There was no sign of Eric Ovens. Have a seat, said Mr. Kidswatter. I just want to ask you a few questions. Sure thing, said Eric Bacon. He sat in the little chair. He leaned back with his hands behind his head and his feet up on Mr. Kidswatter's desk. He looked at himself in Mr. Kidswatter's mirrored glasses, took a comb out of his back pocket, and combed his hair. His hair was very neat and trim. He had gotten it cut yesterday at 12:15 at Charlie's barber shop. Mr. Kidswatter cracked his knuckles. When's the last time you sharpened your pencil? He asked. November 11th, Eric Bacon answered right away. It was 3 minutes before 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I remember because my watch stopped. Where were you yesterday at 12:15? I was in the garden having tea. Did Mauricia step on somebody's pencil this morning? Asked Mr. Kidswatter. Yeah. Whose? She stepped on everybody's pencil, said Eric Bacon. Are you left-handed or right-footed? Demanded Mr. Kidswatter. I write with my left foot and I kick with my right hand, replied Eric Bacon. Mr. Kidswatter scowled. Have you ever gotten your hair cut at Charlie's barber shop? No, I never get my hair cut, said Eric Bacon. I'm bald. This is a wig. Mr. Kidswatter took off his glasses and glared at him. Do the words mugworm gribblick mean anything to you? Eric Bacon shook his head. I can look it up in the dictionary if you want. Mr. Kidswatter shook his head. I tried that, he said. It's not there. He rubbed his chin. Okay, boys, you can come out now. Eric Ovens and Eric Fry crawled out from under the desk. Mr. Kidswatter looked at each Eric. One of you is lying, he said. I don't know who it is, but I'll find out. And when I do, whoever it is will be very sorry. Now I'll give you one last chance to come clean. Eric Fry trembled. Eric Ovens shivered. Come on, let's blow this popsicle stand, said Eric Bacon. He walked out of the room. The other two Erics followed. Mr. Kidswatter rubbed the back of his neck. He looked at the white card on top of his desk. On one side it said, Charlie's Barber Shop. Under that, in blue ink, it said, Eric, Tuesday, 12:15. He turned the card over. On the other side, a left-handed person had written with a sharp pencil, Nothing. Nothing. I think there's supposed to be like an illustration there or something. What's the punchline? My PDF doesn't have it. Local library, why have you failed me? Why have you given me a subpar PDF? Hold on, I want to find out what this says. What's going on with the principal in this book? I guess he's just evil. I'm Googling this. I don't even care. Oh! On the back, a left-handed person had written with a sharp pencil, Mr. Kidswatter is a mugworm griblick. That's it. That's the punchline. Mr. Kidswatter was trying to figure out who said mean things about him yesterday. And it didn't say that in my PDF for whatever reason. Okay, mystery solved. Mr. Kidswatter is a mugworm griblick. There we go. We solved it. All right. We're on chapter 23. Teeth. Something terrible happened. Rondi grew 2 new front teeth. Rondi was afraid nobody would think she was cute anymore. Mrs. Jules was giving a health lesson. Always brush your teeth, she said, and remember to scrub behind your ears. But I'll get toothpaste in my ear, exclaimed Todd. Everyone laughed, except Rondi. She didn't want anybody to see her teeth. She hadn't smiled for a week. Mrs. Jules made Todd write his name on the board under the word discipline. At recess, Rondi decided to tell Louis her problem. Louis was talking to Dee Dee. Do you have any green balls left? Asked Dee Dee. I'm sorry, I've already given them all away, said Louis. That's not fair, said Dee Dee. Why can't you ever save one for me? You know I can't do that, said Louis. If I save a ball for you, then all the other kids want me to save balls for them, too. Thanks for nothing, Louis, said Dee Dee. She stormed away. It was Rondi's turn. She made sure nobody else was listening. Louis, will you help me? She whispered. Sure, Rondi. What's the problem? Asked Louis. Rondi smiled, showing Louis her teeth. Very nice, said Louis. And listen to this, said Rondi. She sells seashells by the seashore. Very good, said Louis. No, it isn't, complained Rondi. I used to whistle when I said words with S's in them. Now nobody will think I'm cute. I think you're cute, said Louis. You don't count, said Rondi. Well, thanks a lot, said Louis. I didn't mean it bad, said Rondi. You think everyone's cute, even Miss Mush. That's why I like you. Thank you, Rondi. I like you too. Thank you, said Rondi. Will you please kick me in the teeth?
No, said Louis. The proper response. Proper response. Why not? Asked Rondi. You said you liked me. If you liked me, you'd kick me in the teeth. You know I can't, said Louis. If I kick you in the teeth, then all the other kids want me to kick them in the teeth too. Rondi scowled. Thanks for nothing, Louis, she said. She crawled into the bushes where nobody would be able to see her mouth. Louis! Louis! Shouted Stephen and Jason as they ran toward him. Terrence stole our ball, said Jason. I wish you children would learn to share, said Louis. Make him give it back, said Stephen. Louis started to say something, then stopped. He twirled his multicolored mustache. Hey, Rondi, he called. Will you help me? Rondi crawled out of the bushes. You wouldn't help me, she said. Why should I help you? Terrence stole their ball, said Louis. Make him give it back. Her? Asked Stephen and Jason. Me? Asked Rondi. Louis winked at her. Rondi's eyes lit up. Okay, Louis, she said. That's a good idea. That's a wonderful idea. She hurried across the playground. Stephen and Jason ran after her. Terrence kicked a red ball up into the air, then ran under it and caught it. Hey, Terrence, said Rondi. That's not your ball. You stole it. Drop dead, ketchup head, said Terrence. Rondi walked up to him, stared him straight in the eye, and said, In your hat, muskrat. That surprised Terrence. He took a step back. Then he collected himself and said, Dig a hole, Millie Mole. Rondi took another step toward him. Kiss a goose, Dr. Seuss, she replied. Terrence looked around. A group of kids had formed a circle around them. Go to jail, garbage pail, he said. Rondi held her ground. Go to the zoo, Mr. Jagoo, she retorted. Everyone was very impressed by how brave Rondi was.
Now gimme the ball, she demanded. You want it? Asked Terrence. I'll give it to you, all right. He raised his fist in the air. Good, let me have it, said Rondi. She smiled, showing him her 2 new teeth. Terrence shook his fist at her. You're asking for it, he said. That's right, said Rondi. I am. Her teeth gleamed at him. Terrence brought his fist all the way back behind him. Rondi closed her eyes. Hey, look! Exclaimed Bibi. Rondi's got new teeth. They're cute, said Jenny. Rondi opened her eyes. You think so? She asked. No, you were cuter before, said Paul. I think she's cuter now, said Todd. They took a vote. 12 kids thought she looked cuter with her 2 new teeth, and 12 thought she looked cuter before. 3 thought she should keep just 1 tooth. So, Rondi decided to keep her teeth. They were good for biting carrots. Uh-oh, she suddenly remembered. She ducked just in time.
Because Terrence was going to punch her in the mouth and knock out her teeth.
Rondi's got teeth now! Yay! She's got teeth! Alright, we're on chapter 24, another story about potatoes! And we're clipping pretty fast through the book. I'm pretty happy with this. We got 6 more chapters, and then we have finished Wayside School is Falling Down, which is good. Which means I will hopefully have time to do all the stuff I need to do this evening after we're done playing catch-up. Chapter 24, another story about potatoes. Joe was next in line. He had forgotten his lunch. And what would you like, Joe? Asked Miss Mush. What do you have? Joe asked. Potato salad, said Miss Mush. Anything else? Asked Joe. No, just potato salad, said Miss Mush. Mrs. Jules had made Miss Mush throw away the rest of the mushroom surprise, and she made Miss Mush promise never to make it again. Okay, I'll have potato salad, said Joe. Miss Mush smiled. She scooped a large glop of potato salad out of the vat and plopped it on Joe's paper plate. Shari was next in line. She had also forgotten her lunch. And what would you like, Shari? Asked Miss Mush. What do you have? Asked Shari. Potato salad. What else is there? Asked Shari. Nothing, said Miss Mush. Okay, said Shari. I'll have that. Potato salad? Asked Miss Mush. No, nothing, said Shari. Joe was the only one who ordered the potato salad. Everyone else ordered nothing. He slid his paper plate over to the cash register and paid for his lunch. Then he went to the ketchup and mustard table. He looked at the grayish-white mound on his plate. He thought it needed more color. He squirted squiggly lines of mustard all over it. Then he added several dollops of red ketchup. That's very pretty, Joe, said Bibi. I didn't know you were such a good artist. Thanks, said Joe. He looked for a place to sit. Hey, Joe, over here, called John. Joe sat next to him. Hi, pal, he said. Hi, good buddy, replied John. They were best friends. John had brought his lunch. He looked at Joe's potato salad covered with yellow squiggles and red polka dots. That's very colorful, he said. Thanks, said Joe. They both stared at it. I wonder what it tastes like, said John. Who knows, said Joe. There's plenty more potato salad, called Miss Mush. Who wants seconds? Nobody wanted seconds of potato salad. Several kids went back for seconds of nothing, but soon Miss Mush ran out of nothing. Finally, Joe picked up his plastic fork and stuck it into the glop. What does it feel like? Asked John. Lumpy and gooey, said Joe. He dragged his fork over the mound, swirling the mustard and ketchup together. Kinda spongy, too. The colors mixed with the potato salad. It turned a pale orange. It looks like a face, said John. Joe laughed. He shaped it so it would look even more like a face. He piled up some potato salad in the center, giving it a nose. John had a plastic spoon. He dug out 2 holes for the eyes, then made eyebrows. That's good, said Joe. He gave it a big smiling mouth. John made long, pointy ears. They both laughed at their creation. I wonder what it tastes like, said John. Who knows, said Joe. They stared at it. It kind of looks familiar, said John. Like somebody I know. Who? Asked Joe. I'm not sure, said John. Joe noticed it too. It does look familiar, he agreed. I've seen that face somewhere before, said John. Me too, said Joe. The smile on the potato salad abruptly turned into a frown. Whoa, did you see that? Asked Joe. John's eyes filled with terror. I just figured out who it looks like, he whispered. Who? Asked Joe. Mrs. Gorf! The potato salad laughed. Ha ha ha, said Mrs. Gorf. Now I'll get you. You think you're so cute, don't you? Well, you won't get away from me this time. She wiggled her ears, first her right one, then her left. Quick, Joe, said John. Eat her! The 2 boys dug their plastic utensils into the potato salad and shoveled it into their mouths as fast as they could. Joe swallowed the final mouthful. Whew, said John. That was close. Joe rubbed his belly and sighed. They both stared at the empty plate. You know, Joe, said John, that didn't taste too bad. It was pretty good, Joe agreed. They went back for seconds. Potato salad, Mrs. Gorf. Mrs. Gorf haunts Wayside School like a specter. Like I'm telling you, it's built on a fairy circle. There is a portal to the nether realm in Wayside School, and the veil is thin here. All right, we're on chapter 25. We got 5 more chapters. We're quickly coming to the end of the book, so let's keep clipping. Chapter 25, A Story That Isn't About Socks. It was class picture day. The children were all dressed up in their best clothes. Stephen came to school wearing a 3-piece suit, gray trousers, a gray vest, and a gray jacket. Underneath his vest was a white shirt and a red and gold striped tie. On his feet were hard, black, shiny shoes. He was very handsome. The other kids laughed when they saw him. You've worn lots of silly costumes, said Bibi, but this is the silliest one yet. Bibi was wearing yellow shorts, a red shirt with white polka dots, and a floppy green hat. Mrs. Jules rang her cowbell. Settle down, she said. The children settled in their seats. Stephen remained standing. Look at Stephen, said Mauricia. His jacket is the same color as his pants. They're supposed to be the same color, Stephen tried to explain. It's a suit, and they're not called pants, they're called trousers. Ooh, said Mauricia. Can you go swimming in your suit? No, said Stephen. I can go swimming in my suit, said Mauricia. Mauricia had on a black and white striped bikini. I'm sure Stephen's suit is good for other things, said Mrs. Jules. It is, said Stephen. Like what? Asked Todd. Standing around and looking important, said Stephen. What about sitting? Asked Todd. No, I'm not supposed to sit, said Stephen. The suit might get wrinkled. I'm just supposed to stand around and look important. Oh, said Todd. Todd was wearing white shorts, a Hawaiian shirt, and sunglasses. Dee Dee crawled across the floor to Stephen so she could get a better look at his shoes. They're so shiny, she said. I can see myself. She knocked on one of his shoes with her fist. They're hard, too. Dee Dee, get up, said Mrs. Jules.
What the fuck?
Dee Dee stood up. She had on a black t-shirt that came down to her knees. In the middle of the shirt was a red heart. Above the heart, in sparkling silver and gold letters, it said, "Love Goddess."
I would wear that shirt. Why is she wearing an oversized t-shirt that says "Love Goddess" on it? What the fuck?
I bet they're good for kickball, huh, Steven? She asked, since they're so hard. No, said Steven. I can't run in them, and they hurt my feet. Then why do you wear them? Asked Dee Dee. Because they're uncomfortable, Steven explained. You have to wear uncomfortable shoes if you want to look important. Oh, said Dee Dee. What's that thing around your neck? Asked Paul. It's a tie, said Steven. Does it keep your neck warm? Asked Paul. No, said Steven. Does it hold your shirt on? Asked Paul. No, said Steven. Well, what's it for? Asked Paul. It chokes me, said Steven. Oh, said Paul. The more it chokes me, the better I look, Steven explained. See? He tightened his tie. Oh, yeah, said Paul. You look real handsome. Paul was wearing cowboy and Indian pajamas. Ooh, that hasn't aged well. Steven pulled his tie tighter. Now how do I look? He asked. Wow, you look great, said DJ. Pull it tighter. Steven pulled his tie even tighter. How's this? He gasped. You look great and very important, said DJ. DJ was wearing a toga made out of his bedsheet. Pull it tighter, said BB. Steven pulled on his tie. He could no longer breathe. Tighter, everyone yelled. Steven pulled it on even tighter. His eyes bulged and his nose turned blue. He had never been more handsome. Tighter! They all shouted. Steven pulled his tie so hard that he ripped it in half. Aww, the whole class groaned. Darn, said Steven. Now I'm not great and important anymore. Yes, you are, Steven, said Mrs. Jules. You're just as great and important as you ever were. I am? Steven asked. Certainly, said Mrs. Jules. The tie didn't make you important. It doesn't matter what you wear on the outside. It's what's underneath that counts. Underneath? Asked Steven. Yes, said Mrs. Jules. If you want to be great and important, you have to wear expensive underpants. Oh, said Steven. Mrs. Jules had on a flowered tank top and a grass skirt. Yeah. Picture day. Love Goddess sounds like a corn star name. Honestly, all the fits in that chapter are very funny. Very, very good. 10 out of 10. Chapter 26. The Mean Mrs. Jules. Everybody in Mrs. Jules' class thought she was a very nice teacher. They were wrong. There's no such thing as a nice teacher. If you think you have a nice teacher, then you are wrong too. Inside every nice teacher, there is a mean and rotten teacher bursting to get out. The nicer the teacher is on the outside, the meaner the teacher inside is. As Mrs. Jules was changing the bulletin board before class, a mean and rotten voice whispered inside her brain. Give the children lots of busy work today, it said, and then make them do it over again if their handwriting isn't perfect. Mrs. Jules tried very hard to ignore the voice. She didn't like giving busy work. Instead, she tried to teach the children 3 new things every day. She believed that if they learned 3 new things every day, they would eventually learn everything there is to know. There are some classes where the teachers give so much busy work that the children never learned anything. Teacher is talking to kids about what kind of underwear to wear. Someone call the police. I'm telling you, Mrs. Jules is not a normal human woman. She is a fae trickster. She is a fae being. She is not... Why isn't that teacher in an asylum? Yeah. Yeah. There are some classes where teachers give so much busy work that the children never learn anything. What do you care if the children learn anything? Asked the mean and rotten voice. It's not your job to teach them. It's your job to punish them. Keep them in at recess. Hit them with your yardstick. The bell rang and all the kids scurried to their desks. We're going to learn 3 new things today, Mrs. Jules announced. How to make pickles, 7 plus 4, and the capital of England. All the children paid close attention. The capital of England is London, said Mrs. Jules. 7 plus 4 equals 11, and pickles are made by sticking cucumbers in brine. On her desk, she had a box of cucumbers and a vat of brine for a demonstration. Okay, Joe, said Mrs. Jules. How much is 7 plus 4? Joe shrugged. But I just told you, Joe, said Mrs. Jules. Weren't you listening? I don't know, said Joe. Okay, who can tell me how pickles are made? Yes, Jason. 11, Jason declared. Mrs. Jules frowned. That's a correct answer, she said, but unfortunately I didn't ask the right question. Can anyone tell me how pickles are made? Yes, Beebe. In London, said Beebe. I suppose they make some pickles in London, said Mrs. Jules. Okay, let's start again. Calvin, what's the capital of England? Can you write England on the board? Asked Calvin. I can do a lot better when I can see the question. Mrs. Jules wrote England on the board. Oh, okay, said Calvin, now that he saw the question. The capital of England is E. Yes, that is one capital of England, Mrs. Jules had to admit. Okay, I will say it one more time. The capital of England is London. Isn't that where they make all the pickles? Asked Jenny. No, they don't make all the pickles in London, explained Allison. Just 11. Well, where do they make the rest of the pickles? Asked Stephen. Shut up! Shouted Mrs. Jules. Well, that does it. You're all staying inside for recess. Everyone stared at her. Mrs. Jules had never told anyone to shut up. It was against the class rules for anyone to use that expression. If you did, you had to write your name on the blackboard under the word discipline. Mrs. Jules put her hand over her mouth, then took it away. Oh dear, I'm very sorry, she said. I don't know what came over me. She wrote her own name on the blackboard under the word discipline. Perhaps you'll learn the lesson better if you write it down, she suggested. Everyone please take out a piece of paper and a pickle. Everybody laughed. Pencil! Snapped Mrs. Jules. I meant to say pencil. It just came out pickle. I didn't know pickles came from pencils, said Jenny. I thought they came from cucumbers. I thought they came from London, said Todd. Mrs. Jules made an ugly face. Todd, didn't I just tell you to shut up? She asked. She picked up her yardstick and held it over Todd's head. Well, answer me. Didn't I just tell you to shut up? Yes, said Todd. How dare you talk back to me, snapped Mrs. Jules. Didn't I just tell you to shut up? Todd kept his mouth shut. Well, answer me, she demanded. Todd didn't know what to do. He nodded his head. Keep still, ordered Mrs. Jules. Now I don't want you to say another word, is that clear? Todd stared at her. Is that clear? She asked again. Yes, Todd said meekly. Mrs. Jules slammed down the yardstick. Todd quickly moved out of the way. The yardstick banged against his desk and broke it in half. Mrs. Jules stared at the 18 inches she held in her hand. Oh my goodness, she said. I'm sorry, Todd. I don't know what's the matter with me today. I must have gotten up on the wrong side of the bed this morning. She put a check next to her name under the word discipline. Okay, let me try to make this very simple, she said. If I have 7 cucumbers, and then I get 4 more cucumbers, and then I drop all the cucumbers in brine and take them to the capital of England, what do I have? How many? And where am I? Huh? Said DJ. What? Asked John. Could you write the question on the board, please? Asked Rondi. Shut up! Mrs. Jules yelled a third time. In a mocking voice, she said, Could you write the question on the board, please? You kids think you're so cute. Well, we'll just see how cute you really are. She picked up the vat of brine from her desk. How would you like it if I poured this on your heads? You won't be so cute when you're all shriveled up and covered in warts, like pickles. She walked up and down the aisles, carrying the pickle juice and glaring at the children. No one dared make a sound. She stopped next to Leslie. How about you, Leslie? She asked. How would you like a pickled pigtails? Leslie trembled. Her pigtails wiggled. Well, I'm going to ask you 3 questions, Leslie, said Mrs. Jules. And if you don't answer them all correctly, I'm going to dump this on your head. Leslie gulped. Question 1, said Mrs. Jules. How much is 7 plus 4? Leslie quickly tried to count on her fingers, but she didn't have enough. 11, she guessed. A look of disappointment came over Mrs. Jules' face. Okay, question 2. What is the capital of England? London, Leslie said nervously. Rats, said Mrs. Jules. Okay, question 3. She looked down at the vat of brine she was holding and shook her head. She thought a moment, then smiled. What is the name of my cousin who lives in Vermont? Leslie had no idea, so she just had to take a wild guess. She closed her eyes and said, Fred Jules? Wrong! Exclaimed Mrs. Jules. She raised the vat of brine high above Leslie's head and started to tip it over. Paul jumped out of his seat. Those pigtails had once saved his life. Now it was his turn to return the favor. He pushed the vat of brine back the other way. He was just trying to put it up straight, but he pushed too hard. It poured all over Mrs. Jules, drenching her. Paul froze in terror. Mrs. Jules blinked her eyes. Pickle juice dripped down her face. Thanks, Paul, she said. I needed that. The brine had cured her. She circled her name on the blackboard and sent herself home early on the kindergarten bus. Why is Mrs. Jules suddenly... She's a fey trickster. She's a fey trickster. The moon was full. She hadn't gotten the proper sacrifices. That's the answer to why she was suddenly a werewolf. Mean teacher. We are on chapter 27, Lost and Found. Joy and Mauricia were best friends. They sat down on the grass to eat their lunches, but then Mauricia remembered she needed chocolate milk. She went to get some from Miss Mush. When she returned, she couldn't find her lunch. What happened to my lunch? She asked. Joy looked up at her, then shrugged her shoulders. I set my lunch down right here, said Mauricia. You saw me, didn't you? Joy shook her head. I put it here, then I went to Miss Mush's room to get some chocolate milk. I had a peanut butter and banana sandwich. There's no way I can eat a peanut butter and banana sandwich without chocolate milk. Joy shrugged her shoulders. Mauricia didn't know what to do. How milk? Asked Joy. It was hard for Joy to talk, because her mouth was full of peanut butter and bananas. Mauricia handed Joy the carton of chocolate milk. Joy took a big drink, then swallowed. Mauricia looked all around for her lunch. She crawled in the dirt as she searched through the bushes. Any luck? Asked Joy as she finished Mauricia's chocolate milk. I found it! Mauricia exclaimed. Joy coughed on the chocolate milk. You did? She asked, then coughed again. Mauricia crawled out of the bushes holding a paper sack. She sat back down next to Joy and opened it. Joy is always stealing people's food. Is it your lunch? Asked Joy. No, said Mauricia. Too bad, said Joy. It's money! It's what? It's money! Exclaimed Mauricia. Joy's eyes nearly popped out of her head as she looked at the paper bag. It was stuffed with dollar bills. And there weren't just $1 bills. There were a few $5 bills, some $10 bills, but mostly just $20 bills. We found $1 million, Joy whispered. We? Asked Mauricia. They counted the money. It wasn't $1 million. It was $20,655. Okay, $20,655. How much is that? How much is that in today's money? 20,655. 1,655. In 1978, it was 20,655 in 1978 to today. They found 100 grand. $101,838.34. What about, I think this book came out in 1986? Oh my god. Wait, when did Wayside School is Falling Down come out? '89 children's book. So in 1989. Okay, so they found approximately $547,025.25. That's how much money they found. Holy crap! That's a lot of money. Like, $20,000 is a lot of money, but that's like a lot of money. Let's split it, said Joy. You take half and I'll take half. Maybe I should show it to Louis, said Mauricia. Louis, exclaimed Joy. Are you crazy? Let's spend it. We can buy a skateboard, or a bicycle, or a horse, or a fancy car, or an airplane. I like taking the bus, said Mauricia. You could buy ice cream, said Joy. All the ice cream you could ever want for the rest of your life. She knew Mauricia loved ice cream more than anything else in the world. Hey, how's it going? Hey, welcome. Glad to have you. Rowan Ryan. That is a fun, alliterative name to say. Rowan Ryan. We're reading Wayside School is Falling Down as part of our Nostalgia Book Club meeting. We're on chapter, 27, 28? Is this your OC? It's my VTuber! This is my VTuber. I'm an alien fungus from outer space. It's cute, right? I made it. You like it? You like my little schoolgirl outfit? Anyway, I'm gonna keep reading. Mauricia smiled as she thought about it. Try to fungi milk y'all? What? Get out of here, Gleam. Hi, Gleam. How are you? It's really cute. Thank you. Gleam, am I cute? Tell me I'm cute, or else. Did you do the rigging of it as well? Mm-hmm. Yep, I did the whole thing. Yuki's so cute. Yuki adorable. Yuki the cutest in the world. Hey, Gleam, you missed it. These kids just found 50 grand in their playground. You're cute. Thank you. Yuki did it all ourselves. We put it on the fridge, too. Yes! I deserve to be on the fridge. Pin me to the fridge. Not like that. Not like that. Pin my artwork to the fridge. Don't. I mean, you can pin me to the fridge, I guess. I just, too late clipped. Hey. Well, I guess I'm getting pinned to the fridge. God. Okay, what are they gonna do with this 50 grand they just found? Mauricia smiled as she thought about it. No, I better show it to Lewis. He'll know what to do. 50 racks is crazy, especially for, like, third graders. These are literal children. Like, this is a wacky, whimsical world, but these are literal, like, third graders. You'll just get in trouble, warned Joy. Lewis will think you robbed a bank. You'll go to jail for the rest of your life. Lewis knows I'm not a bank robber, said Mauricia. But what if the real bank robbers find out you have their money? Asked Joy. They'll come after you and murder you. Oh, I didn't think of that, said Mauricia. You better give it to me, said Joy. Lewis will protect me, said Mauricia. She walked across the playground. Lewis was talking to Terrence. He said, if you ever tie Leslie's pigtails to the tetherball pole again, I'll... Lewis, look, said Mauricia. She held the paper sack up to his face. No, thank you, Mauricia. I'm not hungry, said Lewis. It's not my lunch, said Mauricia. Look inside. Lewis took the bag from her and looked inside. Very nice, he said, then gave it back to her. Now I want you to go untie Leslie and tell her. He suddenly stopped talking and blinked his eyes. He looked at Terrence, then at Mauricia, then at Terrence, then at Mauricia, then at the paper sack. Let me see that again, he said. Mauricia gave him the bag. Hey, what about me? Asked Terrence. Get lost, Jack Frost, said Lewis. Terrence ran away. Did you rob a bank? Asked Lewis. No, I found it in the bushes, said Mauricia. I believe you, said Lewis. We'll have to put it in the lost and found. I know, said Mauricia. Whoever lost it is probably very sad. But if no one claims it in 2 weeks, you can have it, said Lewis. He took the bag of money and headed to the office. Joy was waiting for Lewis at the door. Hey, Lewis, she said. I lost a bag full of money. Have you seen it? Help! Screamed Leslie from the tetherball court. Because she had her pigtails tied to the tetherball. Buy a ton of bicycles. Whoever works the Lost and Found will definitely take that shit. Yeah, absolutely. A week later, Mauricia was eating lunch alone. She was eating a piece of sweet potato pie. Joy was crawling around in the dirt, lurking for more bags of money. Mauricia, said Lewis, I'd like you to meet someone. This is Mr. Finch. Mr. Finch was an old man with white hair and a long white beard. He shook Mauricia's hand with both of his hands. It's your money, isn't it? Asked Mauricia. Mr. Finch nodded. It was my life savings, he said. For 50 years I made pencils. I got a penny for every pencil I made. I hate pencils. But finally, I saved enough money to quit my job and do what I always wanted to do. What's that? Asked Mauricia. I'm going to open my own ice cream parlor, he said, then started to cry. When I lost that money, I thought I'd have to start making pencils again. Okay, he had 20,655 dollars, and he got a penny for each pencil he made. So he made $2,065,500 pencils over the course of his life. And he hated every single one. Here, I want you to have this, blubbered Mr. Finch. He gave her an envelope containing $500. It was the second largest amount of money Mauricia had ever seen. And I'll give you free ice cream for the rest of your life at my ice cream parlor, he promised. Thank you, said Mauricia. No, thank you, said Mr. Finch. I'm so glad someone as kind and as honest as you found it. There are so many dishonest people in the world. It's good to know there are still good people, too. They hugged each other. Joy crawled out of the bushes. Hey, who's that? She asked. This is Mr. Finch, said Mauricia. It's his money. Look, he gave me a reward of $500. And I'll get free ice cream for the rest of my life. Well, what about me? Joy demanded. Don't I get anything? Oh, dear me, said Mr. Finch. I didn't realize there was someone else involved. Mauricia would never have found the money if it wasn't for me, said Joy. Why, what did you do? Asked Louis. I stole her lunch, Joy said proudly. Mr. Finch gave her a pencil. Should have just kept the $50K invested in Google before it existed. God. Honestly, 1989, right before the dot-com bubble, invest that shit, you would have made fucking bank. Like, right before the computer and the dot-com boom, like, perfect time to invest. Alright, we're on chapter 28. We got 3 more chapters, including this one, and then we're gonna call stream. So I hope no one is sad. Actually, let me text my roommate really quick to see if we're still doing plans. Because I remember we were doing plans. I was only 3. Damn, I should have invested my $20 for my birthday in Google. You should have. You should have. You should have been investing in stocks and bonds instead of being an infant in diapers. How could you? How could you? All right. Let's go ahead and wrap up this book. Ugh, texting my roommates. Imagine how much I could have donated to the Yuki Koyuki fund. Please! Please! You could have been rich, and then I, as your Oshi, by extension, could have been rich. Chapter 28, Valouche. Mrs. Jules rang her cowbell. I have some wonderful news, she said. The children stopped what they were doing and looked up. They waited for Mrs. Jules to tell them the wonderful news. You are a very lucky class indeed, said Mrs. Jules. Mrs. Valouche, the world-famous dancer, will be coming here to Wayside School. She will teach you how to dance. Everyone was still waiting for the wonderful news. Isn't that exciting? Asked Mrs. Jules. You will see her every Wednesday instead of going to PE. Will girls have to dance with boys? Asked Jenny. I suppose, said Mrs. Jules. Gross! Exclaimed Leslie. Yuck! Said Dana. Will boys have to dance with girls? Asked Ron. Obviously, said Mrs. Jules. No way, said Eric Fry. I'd rather dance with a dead rat, said Terrence. Everybody started talking at once about cooties and warts and other horrible diseases you get from touching girls or boys. Mrs. Jules rang her cowbell again and told them to settle down. Mrs. Jules, I don't need to take dancing lessons, said Eric Bacon. I already know how to dance. Yes, Eric, I've seen you dance, Mrs. Jules said sarcastically. Eric Bacon was a great break dancer, but break dancing was no longer allowed at Wayside School. That was because every time Eric danced, he broke something. Mrs. Walouche will teach you the grace and beauty of classical ballroom dancing, said Mrs. Jules. Everybody groaned. On Wednesday, they all headed down to their first dancing lesson, except Myron. Myron went to PE. How come Myron never has to do anything? Asked Jason. I don't know, said Calvin. I've been wondering about that too. Myron's father must be friends with the president, said Bebe. I think Myron gave Mr. Kidswatter $1,000, said Todd. No, I bet he's blackmailing Mrs. Jules, said Jenny. How could he do that? Asked Benjamin. Maybe Mrs. Jules got drunk, said Jenny, and then she danced on top of a desk with a lampshade on her head, and Myron took her picture, and so now Mrs. Jules has to let Myron do anything he wants, or else he'll show the picture to Mr. Kidswatter. That makes sense, said Mac. Except if she had a lampshade on her head, how would Mr. Kidswatter know it was Mrs. Jules? Asked Todd. No one knew the answer to that. Ballroom dancing? Just give me the F, man. Just give me the F. I will take it. I will take the L. Yeah. Mrs. Jules definitely got skeletons in her closet. She's some kind of fey trickster, and I will die on that hill. They entered the room on the second floor. Welcome, said Mrs. Walouche, a strange-looking woman with bright red hair. It looked like her head was on fire. My name is Miss Walouche. It's so wonderful to be here at Wayside School. She wore pink tights and a sparkling pink top. I hope we will be friends. Yes? She asked. Nobody said a word. All around were red and green balls. There was also one yellow ball. This was the room where Lewis kept the balls for lunch and recess. It was also the room that they always used for school dances. It was the ballroom. Bottom. So, exclaimed Mrs. Walouche, who will be first? Everyone tried to hide behind someone else. Makes a deal with my firstborn with Mrs. Jules, but she didn't say who had to have my firstborn. What if Mrs. Jules isn't hot? She's nice, but no one ever said she was hot. What about that? What do you do then, huh? 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 Oh! Oh, this book has not aged well! Ooh, this book has not aged well! Oh, this book has a slur in it! Oh, this book has a slur in it! Yeehaw! Okay. As if the Eastern European stereotype wasn't bad enough. Yikes, this book is surprising. That's one drink, God. That's one drink? God, yeah. Mrs. Walush put her hands on Ron's face. "What is your name?" she asked. "Ron," he squeaked. "Ronaldo!" bellowed Mrs. Walush. "King of the unkind, not aged well word for Romani and other people of Eastern European descent." "I don't know how to dance," said Ron. "Dance?" asked Mrs. Walush. She looked very surprised. "We are not going to dance," she said. "We're not?" asked Ron. "No, Ronaldo," whispered Mrs. Walush. "We are going to tango." She put her left arm around Ron's waist. Then she grabbed his left hand with her right and stuck it out way out in front of them. Suddenly, the music started. Mrs. Walush dragged poor Ron across the room as she stomped her feet in time to the music. Dum, 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 dum. Hey! When she yelled, "Hey!" she threw Ron up in the air and clapped her hands. Ron turned a somersault in midair, then Mrs. Walush caught him. They tangoed back to where they started. Ron's eyes were spinning in opposite directions. "Hey, that looked like fun," said Mauricia. "Do me." "Very well," said Mrs. Walush. Dancing feels highly questionable. This whole chapter is highly questionable. She grabbed Mauricia and tangoed with her across the room. Dum, 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 yeah. "Hey!" She threw Mauricia up in the air and clapped her hands. Mauricia turned a double somersault before Mrs. Walush caught her. They tangoed back to the front. "My turn," said Terrence. Oh, I spelled Terrence's name wrong. I still miss my 50K. I want 50K. We all want 50K. Give me $50,000 in 1989. Give me $50,000. Give me $20,000. Give me $20,655 in 1989. Please. Please. As Mrs. Walush tangled with Terrence, all the other kids stamped their feet along with Mrs. Walush. They all yelled, "Hey!" at the same time and clapped their hands. One by one, Mrs. Walush tangoed with every kid in the class. The other kids danced with each other. Boys danced with girls, and girls danced with boys. They didn't care. Paul danced with Leslie. Dana danced with John. Terrence danced with Rondi. Allison danced with Jason. DJ danced with Kathy. Todd danced with Joy. "Hey!" they all shouted together. Of course, they weren't strong enough to throw each other up in the air. Instead, they tried to trip each other and throw each other onto the ground. "Hey!" Even Kathy was having fun. "Hey!" she shouted as she kicked DJ in the rear end. They also threw the balls at each other. "Hey!" Mrs. Walush began to get tired. Sometimes she didn't catch the children after she tossed them in the air. Dee Dee crashed to the floor. "Wow," she said. "This is more fun than Murder the Man with the Ball." "Hey!" At last, the music stopped. Dum, 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 dum. And everyone shouted, "Hey!" one last time. Mrs. Walush clapped her hands. "Wonderful!" she exclaimed. "Fantastic!" They all staggered out of the ballroom, cut up, bruised, and bleeding. "Next week, we waltz!" Mrs. Walush called after them. "So, how did everyone like dancing?" asked Mrs. Jules when they returned. "Dance?" asked Ronaldo, king of the very unkind word for native Romani and people of Eastern European descent. My kid comes home with bruises and a smile, and I have questions, yeah. "We didn't dance." "You didn't?" asked Mrs. Jules. "No," said Ronaldo. "We tangoed." Everyone cheered. "It was wonderful!" exclaimed Kathy. "Fantastique!" said Terrence. Myron was sorry he had missed it. "I can't wait till next Wednesday," said Todd. And that was chapter 28. Okay, pour one out for slurs. That's just... Like, I don't want to say the word because it is... Okay, so let's go back to 1989, guys. Yeah. So, the word I'm dancing around is... Like, I'm just gonna start saying slurs here, but I'm saying slurs in an educational context. The word is gypsy, and that word in modern times has come to be recognized as a slur. Okay? It is a modern slur. It's always been an unkind word, but it has recently come under fire as this is not the Romani people's word for themselves. This is the word that has been labeled derisively on the Romani people, and they consider it to be an ethnic slur for their cultural ethnic group, right? And that's something that we have learned modernly as the conversation between cultures has gotten better and as people have started sharing their experiences more openly, right? In 1989, remember, this book, the first book is from 1976. The second book is from 1989. I just Googled that. We were not having those conversations. We were not having those conversations, and there is this expectation and assumption that all of the characters in this book are quote unquote normal. Straight, white, middle class, cisgender, heterosexual, quote unquote normal. Because the person who wrote it is a straight white guy. So, am I surprised that there is a word in this book that has not held up today? Yes and no. It was like getting flashbanged, but in this book has not aged well. Even though it's from relatively modern times, 1989, that is the late 80s, early 90s, it still has a bad word in it. It still has a word that we would not use in modern culture today. Crazy how straight white men became endangered back in 2013. I know, right? They've all been hunted for sport. This is what happens. Misandry is real. I'm saying that as sarcastically as possible, by the way. Yeah. Speaking of 2013, we all said, gonna say a slur again, but I'm saying it for educational context. We said retard constantly. Retard is a slur. Retard is a slur. That is a bad, unkind word for people with mental deficiencies and for people who are disabled. You know? Like, and people who are disabled, mentally, physically, otherwise, invisible disabilities, I forget where I was going with this. I think I was gonna say something about differently abled, and talk about that because I'm married to someone who has, I don't know if they claim the label of disabled, but they definitely have like chronic health issues that affect their quality of life, and that is disabled in my book. So it's something that I care about. It's something that I care about. And back in 2013, people were saying the R slur all the time. Green Day said it. Green Day said it in American Idiot, one of the most influential post 9/11 pieces of punk music. You know, that's just how ingrained that word was in the cultural vocabulary and lexicon of the time. And now, as we've started having more conversations with marginalized people, we have seen more pushback on words like retard and gypsy. Words who were always unkind, but not quite as polarized as being a slur has made them. Does that make sense? The X-Men have taught us so much, and yet some people miss the point entirely. Yeah, basically. Anyway, it's really interesting seeing a time capsule and a part of the times that this book was made in so, like, preserved, you know? Because I guarantee no one in 1989 was batting an eye at the word gypsy or at the racial stereotype that is Mrs. Walush. She's very clearly supposed to be some kind of Eastern European stereotype. Which, is she a harmful stereotype? I'm gonna let people debate that who are smarter than me. But she is a stereotype. And she's a stereotype for comedic effect to say, ooh, aren't these people who are different than us funny? And that's, you know, using the word for its actual intended purpose, problematic. Yeah, because whole cultures are not comedy routines. They are human beings who are worthy of respect. It's just interesting. It was a little bit of a flashbang that, oh, this is from the past. This is from the past. It's interesting. It's just interesting. And see, this is exactly, at least we haven't heard mention of a separate water fountain yet. Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. And you know, this isn't a book that is about, like, the main theme of the book is being whimsical. It's not trying to say something political. But, in a manner of speaking, art is a reflection of the times in which it was made, and therefore all art is political, because all time periods are defined by, even time periods of peace, are defined by the politics of the era, right? Because what is an era of peace if not an era of, oh, everyone is marginally satisfied with the state of the world at this moment, right? So it's just interesting. It's just interesting. I hopped on the stream at a good moment. Hi, Fruz. Fruz. Yeah, we're reading Wayside, and it's a book from 1989, and I'm reacting to the fact that this book hasn't aged well in certain regards. So it's just interesting. It's an interesting conversation, and these are all just like my surface thoughts. I'm sure when I do the actual retrospective video, I'm gonna have much more eloquent things to say about my feelings about this. But that's my feeling right now, kind of in the gut moment, and that's why I wanted to stream this. That's why I specifically wanted to stream this instead of just reading it on my own time and taking notes. Because now I'll be able to go back to this moment and understand exactly what I was thinking in that moment because I have it recorded. That's why I wanted to stream it. Anyway, we are on chapter 29. We have 2 chapters left before I'm going to end stream and go hang out with my friends. So I wish I was a Nepo baby because my parents found 50K on the playground one day. God, don't we all? Chapter 29. Okay, if we're gonna do this tonight, I need to know. Because I'm a little worried. Because I'm not shy about this. I have plans after this. I don't usually stream on Thursdays, so I plan things on Thursdays. How late is the place we're going open? How late are they open? Okay, they're open until 10. Okay, they're open until 10. Yeah, we can. Yeah, we won't be like assholes rolling up like 15 minutes before they close at the very least. If we go at like 8 or something. Yeah. That's like a late dinner service, but it's still dinner service. So like other places that close at like Fucking 7? Who closes at 7? Like, okay, we're going to get dinner after the stream, right? Me and all my roommates are going to get dinner, and we're gonna go hang out, and we're gonna have fun, have like, housemate day. It's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it. And there's a place in Alienville in my neighborhood that's like specifically a lunch and dinner restaurant, and their dinner service ends at like 8 o'clock. Like, they close the restaurant completely at 8 o'clock. That's fucking insane to me. You guys are a dinner place. People are having dinner at 8 o'clock. Right? Am I insane? Am I insane for thinking that? Like, is my time period like completely off because I stay up so late? But is 8 o'clock an insane time to close for a restaurant? Like, 9 o'clock, I understand. I understand 9 o'clock. That's what I was worried about. I was like, okay, are they going to close at like 9? Because I'm going to feel like an asshole if we go there at 8 o'clock and they close at 9. But no, they close at 10 if we go there at 8, yeah. So, some people do like get off work at 8 p.m. Yeah, they get off work at 8 p.m. You know? Like a 12 to 8 p.m. That's kind of office job adjacent, right? Okay, so I'm not crazy. It's this restaurant that's crazy. Fuck them. Their pasta's mid, too! Their pasta is so fucking mid! I got the ravioli, and it was like the most mid ravioli. It was like dry cheese inside wet pasta with unseasoned marinara sauce, and that was my ravioli. It was so bad. It was so mid. Olive Garden knockoff. And like they try to be like, oh, we're like the small business Olive Garden of the neighborhood Alienville, and it's like, no, you're not. I'm literally gonna go to the actual city. Like I live kind of in the middle of nowhere, right? I live in Texas. I live in the middle of nowhere, and then you go down the highway like 20 minutes, and then you're in civilization, right? That's where I live. So Alienville is like just a small little thing. Like we've got a couple, like we got like a Chinese place, we've got this like wacky Italian place, and we've got like a McDonald's, and then you have to drive to go where you want to go. We're going into town to get food. Middle of nowhere next to Courage's dog. Yeah, that's my neighbor. Yeah, Courage the Cowardly Dog. Yeah, he lives a couple dirt patches over. It's not quite middle of nowhere, but I do live like on the prairie. Like I live in a neighborhood, but it's like kind of middle of nowhere. But yeah, like we're going into town because this place closes so early and sucks so bad. It so sucks. It's not good. Their pizza is mid. Their pizza's fine. But honestly, real talk, Pizza Hut is better. I'm gonna when I order pizza, I don't order from the local place, even though I'm always like, ooh, I like to shop local. I'm a fucking libcuck. Ooh, shop local. It's obviously, have you like heard me rant? But I don't order local. I order from the mega corporation Pizza Hut because mega corporation Pizza Hut doesn't close at like 7 or 8, and they have better pizza. You guys got me ranting instead of reading. I know some restaurants that would close at 6 p.m. Okay, are they like strictly lunch service restaurants, though? Like, do they do strictly lunch service? Because if they do strictly lunch service, I understand. Like, they don't do dinner service. But if you do dinner service and you close at 6 p.m., 6 p.m. is the high point of dinner service. You have people actively walking in the door demanding a table at 6 p.m. and you're closing? That's insane. That's bad business practice. Are you a front for the mafia? Chapter 29. The Lost Ears. The Lost Ear. Singular ear. There's a family-owned Mexican spot near me and they close at 3 p.m. Let me eat your Mexican food! Let me eat your Mexican food at normal time periods. Like, I understand places that are open like, okay, we're open for peak hours only. Peak hours being like 12 to 3, and then, 5 to 9. I understand peak hours only, especially if you're a small, family-owned place. But you gotta have good peak hours, you know? You gotta have good peak hours. You can't close at 8. You gotta have a little bit of a tail-end dinner service, because I guarantee people are still gonna be going. Am I insane? Am I far too demanding of the whole? I feel like I'm a little insane. It's fine. It's fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. You're not fine. I'm fine. Chapter 29, The Lost Ear. Mrs. Jules was teaching the class about mammals. All mammals have hair, she said. Phoebe raised her hand. Is my father a mammal? She asked. Yes, all people are mammals, said Mrs. Jules. But my father doesn't have any hair, said Phoebe. He's bald. Everybody laughed. Benjamin stared down at his desktop. He was very determined. Mrs. Jules would be handing out report cards at the end of the week. He had to tell her his real name before then. He raised his hand. But Mac also had his hand raised. Yes, Mac, said Mrs. Jules. I heard about a man who was getting his hair cut, said Mac, and the barber cut off one of the man's ears. See, the man had very long hair. I think he was a hippie, so the barber couldn't see his ear until it fell on the floor. Thank you, Mac, said Mrs. Jules. That was a very interesting story. I'm not finished, said Mac. When the barber saw the ear on the floor, he said, Is that your ear on the floor? And then the hippie said, What? I can't hear you. So the barber showed him his ear, then he called an ambulance to take the hippie to the hospital. Were they able to put his ear back on? Asked Todd. Well, see, said Mac. The doctors were all set to sew it to his head. They were in the operating room and everything. But suddenly they couldn't find the ear. Man, they looked everywhere for it. Did they look under the operating table? Asked Joy. Yep, said Mac. It wasn't there. How about in the bathroom? Asked Eric Bacon. Maybe they lost it when they washed their hands. They looked, but it wasn't there, said Mac. Did they leave it at the barber shop? Asked Jenny. Nope. Did they ever find it? Asked Allison. Yeah, said Mac, but you'll never guess where. In the refrigerator, grumbled Mrs. Jules. No, how would it get there? Asked Mac. Well, we really need to get back to mammals, said Mrs. Jules. Yes, Mark. Benjamin lowered his hand. My name's not Mark, he said. My name is really Benjamin. Benjamin Nushbutt. Nushmut. And I came from Hempleton, not Magadonia. Fine, said Mrs. Jules, but we were talking about mammals. Now, the whale is the largest mammal. Even though it lives in the ocean, it is still a mammal, not a fish. Do whales have hair? Asked John. Yes, said Mrs. Jules. Dana laughed. A whale with pigtails, she exclaimed. Boy, I'd love to pull one of those, said Paul. Benjamin couldn't believe it. Didn't you hear what I just said? He asked. Yes, Benjamin, said Mrs. Jules. Well, don't you think I'm strange? Asked Benjamin. All this time you've been calling me by the wrong name, and I never told you. Don't you think I'm crazy? No, said Mrs. Jules. Benjamin was getting upset. Well, don't you think it's a stupid name? I'm Benjamin Nushmut. He looked around at his classmates. Doesn't anybody think I'm weird? No, you're not weird, said Shari. I'll tell you what's weird. What's weird is bringing a hobo to school for show and tell. I'm the one who's weird. That's not weird, said Bebe. What's weird is telling everyone you have a brother when you don't. I'm the weirdo. You call that weird? Exclaimed Stephen. I'm weird. Who else would choke himself just to look nice? That's not weird, said Jenny. That's normal. Try reading a story backwards. That's weird. I'm the weird one in this class. That's a laugh, said Rondi. If you're so weird, then how come you never asked Louis to kick you in the teeth? I'm the one who's crazy. No, that's not crazy, said Todd. I'll tell you what's crazy. What's crazy is that we all go to school on the 30th floor, and the bathrooms are way down on the first. Everyone agreed with that, even Mrs. Jules. Benjamin shook his head. What a bunch of weirdos, he thought. Then he smiled. He felt proud to be in a class where nobody was strange, because nobody was normal. Oh, this must be your lunch, said Mrs. Jules. She gave Benjamin the white paper sack that had been sitting on her desk since Benjamin's first day of school. At lunch, Allison headed down the stairs. Mark! She exclaimed. Hi, Allison, said Mark Miller. Long time no see. He carried a white paper sack just like Benjamin's. Allison was afraid she was back on the 19th story. Don't worry, said Mark. Suddenly everyone realized my name was Mark Miller and not Benjamin Nushmut. And then Miss Zarves gave me this bag and told me to take it to the hospital. Is it your lunch? Asked Allison. Look inside, said Mark. He handed her the bag. Allison looked inside. There was an ear. Allison's eyes lit up. Oh, now I get it, she exclaimed. I understand everything. There is no Miss Zarves. See, Mac was talking about the ear. Then Benjamin Nushmut, said his name wasn't Mark Miller. So that means you. What? Asked Mark. Allison suddenly looked very confused. Never mind, she mumbled. For just a second, Allison had understood everything. But then she lost it. Imagine getting the bubble guts and the closest bathroom is 30 floors down. Ooh, horrifying. Allison, what do you know? Allison saw through the veil and understood, and she was punished for her hubris. Chapter 30. Our final chapter. We're almost done. We have one more chapter left, and then we're going to end the stream. We've almost been going for 3 hours. How the fuck have we almost been going for 3 hours? What the hell? Chapter 30. Wayside School is falling down. A strong wind whooshed around the playground in the early morning before school, blowing dirt and leaves in the faces of the children. When the bell rang, they could hardly make it from the playground to the school. The wind was blowing directly at them, pushing their hair straight back. With every gust of wind, the school building teetered one way, then tottered back the other. As they headed up the stairs, they could feel the building sway back and forth. The higher they got, the more it swayed. Hold on, I wasn't paying attention. Can we start from the beginning? KYS. Hooray! Yelled Kathy. Wayside School is falling down. What are you so happy about? Asked Joe. We'll all die. Yeah, but we won't have to do our homework, said Kathy. They entered the room on the 30th story. Mrs. Jules rang her cowbell. Find your seats, she said. That wasn't easy. All the desks were crammed together on one side of the room. The building swayed, and the desks slid to the other side of the room. Finally, the children all found their seats and planted their feet firmly on the floor. We're going to have a fire drill today, Mrs. Jules told them, so let's be prepared. Who is our door monitor this week? I am, said Mauricia. Good, said Mrs. Jules. Who's our help monitor? I am, said Jason. Very good, said Mrs. Jules. You have a big mouth. Stephen raised his hand. What if there really is a fire? He asked. There's not going to be a real fire, said Mrs. Jules. It's just a drill. I know, but what if there really is a fire? Asked Stephen. And then the firemen won't come because they'll think it's a drill. The school will burn down. Don't worry, said Kathy. The school is not going to burn down. It's going to fall down. Burp, 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 burp. It was the fire drill. Mauricia, the door monitor, held open the door. Jason, the help monitor, ran to the window. "Help!" he screamed. "Save us! We're up here! Help! Help!" Mrs. Jules led the children out of the room. If there was a real fire, the children might not be able to see her because of the smoke, so she constantly rang her cowbell. There wouldn't be time to go all the way down the stairs, either. Mrs. Jules led them up the ladder and through the trap door to the roof! If there was a real fire, helicopters would rescue them? What? That is the worst. Okay. The wind was even worse on the roof than it was on the playground. Mrs. Jules stood in the center and held the cowbell high above her head. She looked just like the Statue of Liberty. "Everyone stay away from the edge," she warned. Kathy sang, "Wayside School is falling down." "It's not falling down," said Stephen. "It's burning down, and no one will rescue us because they think it's a drill." Jenny noticed a dark, funnel-shaped cloud off in the distance. "Tornado!" she screamed. "We're all going to get sucked off the roof!" A flash of lightning lit the sky, followed by a loud crack of thunder. "We're going to be struck by lightning!" shouted Todd. "No, we won't," said Stephen. "We'll burn in the fire." "No, we'll be sucked up in the tornado," said Jenny. "No, the school is going to fall down," said Kathy. Mrs. Jules continued to ring her cowbell. Kablong, kablong, kablong. The strong wind carried the sound for miles. Suddenly, screams came from down below. Then the whole building began to shake violently. "Earthquake!" yelled Benjamin. "Fire," corrected Stephen. "The school must have been struck by lightning," said Todd. "Tornado," said Jenny. "All fall down," said Kathy. The building continued to rumble and shake. There were more screams. "Listen," said Myron. "They're trying to warn us about something." Down below, over 500 kids and teachers were shouting together, "Star bringing purple!" "What are they saying?" asked Mrs. Jules. "I don't know," said Myron. Mrs. Jules rattled her cowbell. "Star bringing purple!" they shouted again. "It sounds like star bringing purple," said Myron. "What does that mean?" asked Mrs. Jules. Myron shrugged. Mrs. Jules rang her bell even louder. "Star bringing Yorble!" "Wait," said Myron. "They're not saying star bringing purple. They're saying star bringing Yorble." "What's a Yorble?" asked Mrs. Jules. She rang her bell even louder. The school shook and rumbled. "Stop bringing Yorble!" "Stop something," said Myron. Mrs. Jules rang her cowbell. "Stop ringing your bell!" "Stop ringing your bell," said Myron. "Oh," said Mrs. Jules. She stopped ringing her bell. Down below, all the students and teachers clapped their hands. But it was too late. Rondi opened the trap door. "Cows!" she exclaimed. The school was filled with cows. From all over the countryside, cows had heard Mrs. Jules' cowbell and heeded the call. There were thousands of them. They filled the stairs and all the classrooms. There was no way for the children to get down. Helicopters finally came and took them one at a time off the roof. Wayside School didn't blow down. It didn't burn down. It wasn't struck by lightning, sucked up in a tornado, or destroyed by an earthquake. It was cowed. No one knew how to get rid of the cows. Cows are strange animals. They don't mind walking upstairs, but nothing can make them walk downstairs. Someone suggested starving the cows, but the farmers wouldn't allow that. Thousands of bales of hay were sent in. Several cows had calves. The newspapers thought it was funny and made jokes about smart cows learning to read and write. And so, Wayside School was closed. The kids and teachers were temporarily sent to different schools. Only one person stayed behind. He was there all day and all night, trying to get the cows to go home. Come on, pleaded Lewis, the yard teacher, as he pushed and pulled on the cows. Go home, please, pretty please. Everybody mooed. That's it. That's the end of Wayside School is Falling Down, brought to you by the Alienville Public Library. Please support your local public library. So what did we think of that? Who gave her the bell of bovine? Yeah, straight up Shengong Wu up in here. I remember that ending, LMAO. Yeah, I didn't remember that one at all. But yeah. Yeah, what'd you guys think? That's the end of it. We are at almost 3 hours, so it would have taken us 6 hours to finish this book with all the goofiness and chatting that we did. That was fun. This was a really good second installment. I think it really just it was turning it up to 11. We got more silliness, we got a little bit more lore. It was just cute and fun. I liked it. I'm excited to really deconstruct it for the lore. For the lore. I want to know what's up with the FBI agents. I want to know what's up with the 19th story. I want to know what's up. I want to know what the hell is going on. And are you eventually going to do the other two? Yes. We're going to be doing the spin-off books, and we're going to be doing the other two books. So we're going to be reading the third book. Wayside School Gets a Little Stranger. We're going to be reading that. Next week. We're going to be reading that next week, and then we're going to be reading the spin-off books, and then we'll be reading the final installment, Wayside School Under the Doom Cloud, which came out in 2020. And I'm very interested in seeing how the time differential changes the vibe of the book. Because you could tell, the first book and the second book were so similar, you couldn't really tell that there was almost a 13-year age gap between them. 13-year gap between the first and second books. They both feel very vintage, and they have the same flavor of wackiness. I'm wondering if the one that came out in 2020, Under the Doom Cloud, Wayside School Under the Doom Cloud, I'm wondering if that's going to have some kind of weird new feel to it. We're just gonna have to find out. I'm really interested in playing the puzzle book. There's a book full of brain teasers and brain puzzles that we're gonna play through. That'll be a lot of fun. And yeah, that's Wayside School is Falling Down. Those are my thoughts on it. Really enjoyable. I had a good time. I hope you guys had fun. Thank you guys all so much for coming by. Thank you all for hanging out with me. I really appreciate each and every one of you taking time out of your day to come spend time with me. Potentially streaming tomorrow. I know we're scheduled to stream tomorrow. We're scheduled to stream Clue Finders. We're streaming Clue Finders on Friday. So that's exciting. I think we'll be streaming tomorrow. I don't want to promise we'll be streaming tomorrow, though, because I need to do some troubleshooting. And if I can't get Clue Finders to work tonight after I get back from doing dinner with my roommates, we might not do Clue Finders tomorrow because I need to do some setup for it. And And you guys got today's stream, so you got to hang out with me. You got to hang out with me and I got to be a vlog. So we got 3 streams in this week, but I will do my best to make Clue Finders work so we can play Clue Finders tomorrow. And we will marathon Clue Finders. I will go for 6 hours to play Clue Finders if I have to. And hopefully this Clue Finder will not be rat hell like the last one. It'll be more like Clue Finders 3rd grade, which was a much more streamlined and dynamic experience than fucking rat hell 4th grade. So yeah, we got our daily dose of Yuki. Daily dose of me! Of me, baby! Of me! Yeah, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Reggie, you're coming in at the wrong time. We're signing off. I'm so sorry. Oh man, that sucks. I'm really happy to see you, but we're currently signing off. I will see you guys hopefully tomorrow, and we will get everything rolling. 3 more hours? No. Hey, it's okay. Hope you're doing well. We're doing great. We're doing a great time. I'm hungry and I'm looking forward to dinner. I'm looking forward to going to dinner with my roommates. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. And I will catch you guys either tomorrow or next week. 4 more hours. Absolutely not. No. 7 hours stream. I will not be doing that. I need to eat food. Okay, guys. All right, gamers. I will see you on the flip side. My 24 hours? God. One of these days I am going to have to do a streamathon where it's like I can't stop streaming. Like I do like a streamathon where it's like I sleep on stream and everything. Like one day we're going to have to do it. We're going to have to do it, but today is not that day. Today is not that day. I will see you on the flip side, my silly ones. Bye. Bye.